Is on the ground, loose ball, a big hit by T.J. Franklin, and the Bears have the football, and McClain is lit.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Johnson going to go to the end zone, and Boutte! How about that? Solves all problems, doesn't he? Keyshawn Boutte, 31-yard touchdown catch.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Play fake, Paul with time again, floats it into the end zone. For a touchdown by Samson Nacua. My goodness, just ripped it away from the defender.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Prescott rolling, going the other way, looking, going to run, and he's in! Touchdown, Dallas.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports in studio on the corner of MLK and 101 Elm. We're here with Jack and Emery, also in studio. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for being a part of the show today. And we're going to hear from one of the preeminent college baseball writers in America, in Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball.com. He'll join us today at 3:30. Also, Tim Brando today, a little after 5. We have regular segments we do on every day. Paul's Top 5. Craig's Off the Radar at 4:45. And also Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. And Dr. Hunter Taylor, who's written a book. It's kind of focused on UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor before he became a college coach. He'll join us in studio today at around 4:20 or so. Now, a couple of different things. One interesting note. And we have always discussed when it comes to what are the next TV grant of rights, whatever, when it comes to conferences. We know some don't have to go very far. The people are just beating down their door. But one thing that we even asked Bob Bowlesby, Mac Rhodes has brought this up as well, is what are some of the options that are new, that are a part of new media in a way, new outlets in a way. In this story, it came down earlier today, Apple and the Major League Soccer League have agreed to a 10-year broadcasting deal that's around $25 million a year. Isn't Apple something that could be an option for all conferences, including the Big 12 moving forward once they start to work on their next deal?
Yeah, I think the next thing for Apple, though, that you'll probably see is the NFL. I think because this model is – it's not free. It's included in your subscription if you just pay the $4.99 a month for Apple TV Plus. So for $5, you can get every MLS game. So I know Jack is a big soccer fan. Jack, are you an Apple TV Plus subscriber right now? Oh,
but no? He will be.
But will you be? Yes.
Will be.
There
okay.
you go.
There
so
you go.
That's what they do. So now, I look at the NFL because the Sunday ticket, if they use that same model, right now the Sunday ticket costs like $25-$30 a month. Through DirecTV if you have it. Now, when it goes away from DirecTV, which it's going to, if Apple takes it and uses this same model with no upsell, then all you're paying is $4.99 a month and all the NFL games, which is a pretty damn good deal if you're an NFL fan. So we'll see. I mean, because Apple doesn't need the need the extra money in the inside subscriptions. They just want their network to grow, and by getting all these sports, that's a way to do that. So it'll be interesting to see that. Now, I'm sure digital realm is possible for a lot of different things, but I don't know if they can get professional sports if they're going to jump into the college sports game necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think this has anything to do with the Big 12 or anybody like that. I think this is just somebody expanding their library. And, I'm interested to see, you're talking about $250 million for like 250,000 people watching on average. So I don't think this is hey, we expand our fan base dramatically by doing this. Maybe they do a little bit, but on average, MLS games average like maybe 300,000 viewers, I want to say. I'm curious to see how much they feel like this is going to up their viewership, or if this is simply, like Paul's saying, more of a just more to our arsenal, more to our library type of a deal. But it's a good chunk of change. I mean, $250 million for this deal apparently. And I don't see it though. Like you showed that graph yesterday. I mean, what, the Big 12's got like 3 million fans or whatever it was. Who we gonna pay?
They have more than that.
I know, but that's basically what the chart was saying. It was like on average, like 3 million fans or whatever, and the SEC has 18 million fans or whatever it was. But they do average on occasion 7-8 million per broadcast. So if they're averaging that, and soccer's averaging like 250, I mean, you would think that you could probably get a pretty good deal. But at the same time, like, soccer's covering the whole country. The Big 12 covers a sliver. And that's where I see it, kind of the streaming thing not necessarily making a ton of sense all the way around, because if all of a sudden Apple's got the Big 12, which they wouldn't, they would go get like the Big 10 or whatever, and this one's got the SEC, and this one's got, the Big 12. Like at some point, I'm not paying 5 streamers to watch just college football plainly. So that's why I wonder how much the streaming aspect of I'm going to have to do that if I want to watch college football. Not will I or not, but will I have to do that to watch college football in the future, some of the bigger games? That's what I'm curious to know.
I said, Paul, you were on the air with me when it happened. ESPN Plus opened, and I said I would not pay for it, but I have. I learned that even though there are times when I may not even know it exists, there are enough games, there are enough events in which I have found myself with ESPN Plus watching, even though sometimes, like last year's game with Texas State and Baylor, the production was awful. I have watched games. I watched Baylor women's basketball a couple of times because it was a critical game, just to kind of be able to make sure we could, have an opinion on the game. And it's something I thought I wouldn't do, but I do. I won't do it much. I have about 3 or 4 subscriptions, and that's about it when it comes to, and none of them are very expensive whatsoever.
No, but you got to be careful, because they will all of a sudden, Netflix is like, boom, a surprise, yeah. It's $18 all of a sudden, and it was this or that, they'll slide those in there. But I mean, like I said, 285,000 viewers is the average on ESPN for MLS. College football kills that.
Yep.
So if MLS, and there's all about the future of just the fact that it's international, and there are lots of soccer fans, not necessarily MLS fans. So they're really playing the long game on this, but given a good chunk of change. So, I mean, I would think that college football, but then again, we're talking about individual leagues who have several million viewers on a weekly basis, way more than this has, but maybe not the growth levels. That'll be interesting to see how TV networks view that. And it's also the fact that it's far more regional.
Also today, Dallas Morning News had a story, and I did see this in our premium section, but there's a story, and it's behind a paywall, so I saw somebody that at least kind of put the copy points to it, or the bullet points, that Big 12 hired a firm to do a survey on perhaps their future and who their core would be. And what Bob Bowlesby is saying is the core group, or one, it's not the core group, but a heavy group that they were impressed with the survey numbers. 18 to 44 is basically what the Big 12 was told by a survey group out of Dallas is the fan of the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a good
everything.
I still thought, I'm 63 and I'm well out of that note.
But the fan of the future is also someone who, if there is more digital stuff, will be able to navigate that better. And part of the problem right now is, like, Smokey, you just, kind of went on your, I don't want to say rant, but like your stance on the apps and the things like that. Well, you're in your 60s, so to you it is
annoying.
It's like the one step. It's a one bridge too far. Yeah. Where okay, look, I've got to pay a little extra for my cable. At least I can turn on my TV and hit the guide button and scroll down. So now you're telling me that I have to change the input on my TV, and then I have to scroll around and find the app and then scroll in the app. It's a bridge too far for but for 18 to, I guess 44-year-olds, that's not as much of an issue. So you have those things. So, yeah, that's where your growth potential is. But, yeah, absolutely.
So that was a survey they did, like a 9-month survey. Bob Bowlesby saying, I think we found out in a large measure, both inside the Big 12 footprint and outside, our membership going forward is viewed very positively. They've talked about the slogan, every game matters. They want to keep that, although that could change because not everybody's going to have to play each other before it's all said and done here, in fact, within a year. He said they did a study over 9 months that included surveys, determined there's a lot of interest that exists in teams that will remain and join. Yes, no question, with Texas and Oklahoma out, there's going to be a temporary blow, but the long-term death blow is not what maybe most people thought. So very positive. And even Bowlesby added this, and I don't know if this was just for play. He said that after the presentation, those in the room kind of gave it a massive ovation because of what they heard. Now, sometimes consultants are hired, even if you're doing something right, they're going to tell you you're doing something wrong, because otherwise, why do you hire them? Sometimes the best consultants are the ones you hire. They look at what you have and go, damn, I think everything's okay. They should still get paid for their advice because they are helping you validate what you do. But that was something today. That was in the Dallas Morning News, how the Big 12 plans to market itself after Texas OU leave for the SEC, whatever that might be. Now, I want to kind of weave through this one. Again, looking forward to Kendall Rogers from D1Baseball.com. He's fantastic at covering college baseball. And with Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Arkansas among the 8, and the SEC with 4 plus 2 more with Texas and Oklahoma, plus Notre Dame and Stanford, ought to be one hell of a week or so in Omaha, Nebraska. There was a it was a tweet from a writer that covers college baseball about the coach at Louisiana Tech as being a top target in Lane Burroughs. We're going to have, again, Kendall on at 3:30. He told me earlier today he does think that Baylor will probably wrap this up within maybe even 2 to 4 days, maybe goes longer. But I am going to let you know on the inside, Brian Etheridge, who is entrenched when it comes to pretty much anything Baylor, entrenched, basically saying that there's no question he doesn't think there's any question. And I said this yesterday about when we had the Nate Thompson story, which a lot of people had heard before, but the Nate Thompson story. I mentioned to Mitch Thompson, I said, listen, we'd love to have you on to tell that story. I know he's told that story before. It's kind of his testimony. But he couldn't come on. He couldn't come on because most likely he's involved. That doesn't mean Mitch confirmed that with me because he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't jeopardize that. But Mitch Thompson being interviewed for the job would not be a shock and would not be breaking news. He is should be a candidate for the job. But one of the names that was mentioned by Ted Cahill, Brian Etheridge is kind of shooting some bullets in that, basically saying that this could be a coach that, again, not blaming the coach, but possibility of someone floating their name out to get themselves something nice. And that's fine. It happens all the time. Chad Morris did that during the Baylor coaching search that landed Matt Rule. So he has some information in the premium section on SicEm365.com as well. There haven't been many coaching searches, have there, that Mack Rhoades has conducted? And there have been a handful, some of them very highly visible, the women's basketball coach and 2 football coaches. How often has somebody whose name was leaked actually was the one that got the job?
Almost never. I mean,
when did you first hear about Nikki Collin?
The day she got the job.
Matt Rule.
The day
there was a little whisper about him because of Temple's success, but pretty much that was on a Monday, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Jim Grove, which was not Mac, but even Baylor did a great job with that. That was on Memorial Day back in 2016. Dave Aranda's a little bit more public, coming off the national championship, but still even then, in fact, our guys did a great job on the inside with that one, but they're very airtight. So usually when you hear a name floated out like this, you wonder. And I'm not so sure if the name gets floated out like that, it might even be a part of it if you don't get like they're gone. And I don't know. I'm not saying someone's told me that before as well. All right, so Apple TV, Dallas Morning News on the survey, Baylor baseball coach, the College World Series. That's a pretty damn good group of schools, man.
Yeah.
It's, one, two, three former Southwest Conference schools, 4 former Big 12 schools, right? And what will be 6 SEC schools, 4 of them currently. And then you have Stanford, who's always involved in something. And then also you have what Notre Dame's done by knocking off the number 1 overall team in America in Tennessee. So you have Arkansas, Texas, and Texas A&M, 3 former Southwest Conference schools. Oklahoma from what was a part of the Big 12 and then and still is. And then, of course, you have the SEC schools, Notre Dame, and also Stanford as well. Craig, I know that we have discussed this before, and I know a lot of people have said they're sick and tired of hearing about it, but you actually realize they had an NIL summit.
Oh, Joey.
It's going on right now. And I think it's in Atlanta. And they actually were giving out awards for businesses and
yeah, I saw
Triple H.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm really not into wrestling, like, at all right now. Like, not even AEW, really. I'm in one of those modes where I'm not into it. So just because you see wrestling pop up, I do appreciate the thought, but it doesn't get me jazzed.
I didn't bring it up because of wrestling. I brought it up because I saw him getting an award for NIL.
Right, and I'm just letting you know that ahead of time because obviously the Triple H connection was there. So what I'm saying is that, he doesn't quite get me jazzed, but I did see that, and I mean, it seemed like a bunch of people throwing a party for themselves is what it was. A bunch of people involved in NIL throwing themselves an NIL party, and I didn't know too much else about it outside of that, but it seemed like a good event for those that are interested in such a thing. I'm not anti it at all, but I'm just not, like, obsessed with it like a lot of people are. I'm just the person who thinks some of it's interesting, and I think there's a whole lot of it that's just people building an industry for themselves, and that's totally fine. Like, that's been created over the last year especially. There's been a lot of new jobs and all that kind of jazz, but I just don't care about the nitty-gritty of it. I really don't. I mean, NIL awards don't really do much for me personally.
I thought it was interesting. You have the Academy Awards, and now you even have
awards in general I don't care about. So, I definitely don't care about the NIL awards.
One note on Brittany Griner, former Baylor All-American, national championship, one of the greatest players to ever play basketball at the women's level. Her case, prosecutors in Russia granted yet another extension today in the case against women's basketball player Brittany Griner. Now will be July 2nd. I have seen, and I mentioned this to you, Paul, I've seen a lot now. There's even more and more, and it's people who go on and they're giving their pleas to, please help Brittany, please sign this petition.
The state, can I have the floor for a second?
Yes.
Give me the floor for a second. I'm going to tell you this. Let me tell you how government works. Very, very, very slowly. International government, even slower than that. And what's happening to Brittany Griner is an absolute crime, what they're doing to her in Russia. But she is now a pawn in a political game between a country that doesn't give a crap about Brittany Griner and doesn't give a crap about anything but their country and us because we do care. So you going on social media and virtue signaling that please raise awareness of Brittany Griner, the State Department, who's the only person who needs to know, entity that really needs to know, they know. They're well aware. They're working on it. This is not something that they're ignoring. This is not something that the Biden administration is sweeping under the rug. Believe me, they are working on it. There are complex political issues here that poor Brittany has stumbled onto based on a mistake that she made. A mistake that's blown out of proportion based on the country she's in, but a mistake that she made. So please, if you think, and I know there's people out there that are like, I'm being insensitive. No, I want Brittany to come home. Craig, were you here when Brittany was here? I don't know if you were, but Smokey and I, yeah, we know her. We know Brittany.
He was there when they were upset by Louisville and Oklahoma City.
We know Brittany Griner. Okay, I'm personally invested as the guy who, very famously is not the biggest fan of women's basketball. Very invested in following her career because we saw it from the beginning. I want nothing more than for her to come home. But you pretending like it's some sort of secret thing that no one knows about. No, the State Department knows. The WNBA, all these people are in contact with all the entities going on. But it is not going to do anything for you to make it seem like it's being ignored. It's not. So you can relax knowing that it's being addressed. It's just a super complex issue. It's not so much as Biden can call him and go, hey, Putin, would you do me a favor? Because that's not how Putin works.
All right, I know you've been having that. That's been inside you for a while.
No, man, but it's for real though. There's people like, oh, is it because she's black? Is it because she's an athlete? Is it because no? It's because she's an American that's high profile, and she screwed up by bringing whatever she brought into the country. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who believes that was all set up or whatever, but I really don't think Russia was so calculating of like, let's get Brittany Griner. Like, I mean, come on, dude. Like, there's a million people they could have set something up that would have been, a bigger deal, I suppose. Maybe not a million because she's a pretty big star, but she screwed up, and unfortunately for her, the timing sucked. The worst possible timing there could have been was when she got caught, because it was right at the start of all this chaos with Ukraine and Russia and the U.S.'s involvement or lack thereof. And yes, they're very well aware that she's caught up right now, and this has now been extended, and I've read several articles on them trying to do what they could do. But I think the other thing you're missing is that she's not the only person they're holding.
No.
And there's other people they've been holding a lot longer. And there's other people that, quite frankly, in the chain of importance as far as like state secrets or military or whatever, basketball players not like at the top of that list versus, what other options there may be. So, yeah, it's simply to say it's complicated. And it's not as simple as just like, hey, Biden, go ask for her back and then they'll let her back. I mean, she's clearly being used as a pawn. And it's terribly unfortunate, and it's a situation you wish she never would have got herself involved in. And unfortunately for her, just bad timing, bad luck, bad decisions, and a bad country to be in. And that's led us to where we are right now.
I can tell you, if it was any celebrity to her level, the same thing would have been going on. I mean, if it was, Casey Musgraves, country singer. The same thing would have happened, because then it gives Russia leverage. And look, they know, this didn't get to Putin until probably pretty recently, where it's like, hey, by the way, we've got this American basketball player that plays over here, and she brought weed in the country, and now we have some leverage. We can get the Lord of War, whatever his name is, back. I mean, that's the thing. They're trying to negotiate.
I'm not laughing at
the release of a worldwide arms dealer for a basketball player. That's Milt Pappas for Frank Robinson. It doesn't make sense.
Well, for a long, long time, most were told just don't say anything because it was so sensitive, or don't bring it to Putin's attention. He now knows about it, and who knows when he did. It could have been even months ago. But I do see these petitions and all that, and I think it's great. I think it's great people want her back, but that's not going to make a damn bit of difference. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go on your Twitter or Instagram or TikTok and say whatever you want to say. I just brought up the story. It's now been moved, the next part of the trial moved back till July the 2nd.
I think the part, what Paul's trying to say at least, is it's not like don't say anything. Say all you want to, but at least you're going to say something, be accurate about it. Don't say, oh, well, they just don't care about her, so they're not bringing her back. Right. If it was somebody else, that's where it gets lost. No, make your signs, do your hashtags. We all want her to come back home. But when you try to sit there and say, well, they're not moving fast enough because this or that, or if this was somebody else, they would have. No, that's actually not true, and that's just a lazy opinion. So that's where I think Paul's coming from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It is. Look, and the U.S. government is not the most effective machine right now. We all know that. So it is. She's caught up in the wheels of something that's very, very confusing and complex, and it sucks for poor Brittany. It really does. And I hope she comes home soon. But her trial getting moved 12 days and 12 days is going to keep probably happening, because that's the little needle, to the United States about it.
From Dangby, I hope I said that name right. I hope I did. But Brittany Griner could be Biden's Iran hostage situation. BA 1987, this show feels like it's sports washing the Brit situation.
No.
I'm not. This is when I would normally lose my freaking mind.
Well, I don't understand it quite frankly.
I asked him to respond and explain himself. I don't know what BA 1987. And then you want to have something that's a little bit. I don't know. This could be polarizing depending on who you are. Did I send you that tweet, Garrett, about the singer and the hook 'em horns and all that? Did I send that to you? Is that going to be on Off the Radar, Craig?
What?
The horns down
The
guy?
horns down singer?
No.
It's not. Okay. Paul, go for it.
Okay, since I'm already hot about something, there was a guy who sang the national anthem.
A&M graduate.
An A&M graduate at the Women's College World Series. In doing so, at the end of it, because Texas was playing in it, he threw a horns down. That's the horns down, in case you don't know what it is.
Oh, dear God.
Right
Our
there.
most viral
Right
segment.
there. That's a horns down. That is apparently, according to the NCAA, an offensive gesture because he's been disinvited from coming to Omaha to sing the national anthem as well because it's a participating team and it's an offensive gesture. So I'm not sure.
From the NCAA, from College World Series Inc., contacted him saying, "We have documented proof that he made offensive gestures in mockery of a participating team, and we do not feel comfortable allowing him to perform."
They've just got to get past this horns down thing. It's embarrassing for them.
And I think most, and I could, if you're a Texas fan, do you really? I know some of you get lit up over it.
We
I
don't
get
care,
it,
but yet it's a thing every single time it comes up. Somebody cares.
Is it enough to disqualify somebody from singing at the
No.
College Baseball
No,
World
it's
Series
stupid.
because he put the horns down sign? What if somebody put him up? And okay, it's beyond. It's like taking on a life of its own. I really don't know how you feel, so you let us know. But it just seems to be a little bit nitpicky. But again, we've seen this before. It's a penalty in a Big 12 football game. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, and I've just never gotten that. Paul, tell the Sebastian Janikowski story, if you can, in a rapid fashion.
Good. When I was a sophomore at Florida State won the national title, and Sebastian Janikowski kicked a very crucial 48-yard field goal, but there was a delay of game, and it was so loud that, you couldn't hear the whistles because the Swamp is one of the most ridiculously loud and raucous environments in college football. It's a great place to go watch a game. And so they moved it back 5 yards, and then he booted another one through, and it looked even better. He took 3 large steps, maybe 4, towards Steve Spurrier and chomped in his face, and nothing happened. You know what? Everyone's like, well, you got me. That was it. That was the end of it. There was no only people in blue and orange can do the gator jump. I mean, it's just how it was.
Yeah, and here's a Texas fan, by the way. He says, man, I love it when somebody gives the horn. It's like Chris Nelson is a UT fan. Hook 'em is from Chris. We appreciate that. Dongby, by the way, go Knowles, among some others. Greg, you had something else to add to that?
Yeah, first of all, the reactions to the horns down thing. I mean, I'm with, this is the dumbest thing. Why this has become such a polarizing deal. This one particular symbol for this one school, I don't get why it's become so sensitive. It's the dumbest thing to be sensitive. It's a freaking hand sign that's not personally insulting. It's not racial. It's not condemning any human. It's just a freaking sports hand sign. That's all it is. And there's people out there that want to make this out to be some massive flaw in human beings. Or this is the dumbest story. The dumbest story. Now, as far as the sports washing thing, I actually had to go look up what that is because it's a term that's basically been around about 2 weeks now.
Because of Liv.
Yeah, because of LIV and because of that. So I don't know what this person's talking about. Sports washing, our conversation with Brittany Griner, because based on the term that's, again, 2 weeks old that people are now using because of this golf tournament, what Saudi Arabia is attempting to do is what I guess you would call sports washing. In the case of us...
It's currying political favor through sports.
Okay. So how are we doing that?
We're not.
Exactly. Okay, that's my point. That's my point. We're not sports washing anything. So whoever said that,
helping the Saudis by sports washing by talking about.
I guess
the
we're
Live
helping the
tour,
Russians or whoever. I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know where that person was coming from. Point.
I've asked BA 1987 if he would respond to us. Paul and I have kind of sat back what the hell? When we come back, Kendall Rogers, We will have some audio a little bit later on from John Rahm of the PGA Tour on LIV and his thoughts about what the tour means and all that. It's really, really good. It doesn't point fingers at anybody. It's not being negative at anybody. It's calm. Day 2 of the U.S. Open in Brookline. We'll have Rob Bolton on tomorrow to discuss the tournament, the odds, and all that as well, and he'll beat the hell out of us in our fantasy picks. But coming up next, he's really good at what he does in covering college baseball. The College World Series is set. It's a hell of a field. Baylor looking for a coach. Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball.com. Next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming Savings Event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed and kids club, 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com, call us at 254-753-7675, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717, or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
You know, I've been trying to get Kendall Rogers, I think, for decades. I'm not sure if he's been doing that for decades. But today we finally connected, and I now know why. Kendall Rogers, preeminent college baseball writer, D1Baseball.com, among others as well, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. So when I called you the 39 times I've done that the last couple of years, it always looked like I was some sort of car warranty guy.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, when people call me, like 95% of the time, it comes in as like wireless caller. And like 95% of the time, it's like, I think this time it said wireless caller from like Lorena. And I'm sitting there like, boy, this doesn't look legit at all. But, I answered. I'm glad I did.
Well, I am as well. And Kendall, thank you very much for being a part of the show. And again, Kendall does an incredible job covering college baseball. And with us on this the week before, week of the College World Series will start in Omaha. But we'd like to start with Baylor first. Obviously, looking for a replacement for Steve Rodriguez, who replaced Steve Smith before him. What are you hearing right now that you can share with us on the Baylor search? Because we also know Mack Rhoades has sometimes been able to find somebody that never was even on the radar.
Yeah, no doubt. I had no doubt they've done a pretty exhaustive search. I mean, some of the names I've heard, obviously they're looking in the right places, whether it's, Lane Burroughs at Louisiana Tech, certainly a guy that's, in the mix. I think you look across the country, Jake Gotcher's a guy that I know has had interest in the Baylor job. I'm not so sure. I think he's going to stay put at Mississippi State just because I think he has his eye on an SEC job. But, I think they're looking at the right guys. Dan Fitzgerald at LSU is a guy that stands out right now. The thing about Dan is, he's a Dallas Baptist and was one of the architects of, Dallas Baptist and its rise in college baseball over the last couple of decades. He was, Dan Heather's right-hand man. And I think, Fitzgerald will be an excellent hire if that's the guy that it would be. Obviously, the elephant in the room is, Mitch Thompson. He's a guy that, was an excellent recruiter under Steve Smith. Was a huge part of what, Baylor did under Smitty. And, he's a guy that's certainly in the mix as well. And I would keep an eye on a guy like Rob Vaughn at Maryland. I mean, if you look at Rob, he's a Corpus Christi native. He kind of gnashed his teeth as an assistant at Kansas State. He played college baseball at Kansas State. You look at the job he's done at Maryland. The thing that I keep going back to when it comes to Maryland, Smokey, is when you look at the hires in Maryland has made as an athletic department over the years in baseball. You look at Eric Bakich. They hired him. Well, he ends up being a national runner-up at Michigan. Probably going to be the next head guy at Clemson. You look at John Sheff. They hired him. He went on to Virginia Tech, where he just led the Hokies to a super regional host. And now, now they have Rob Vaughn. So, I mean, conventional wisdom, looking at those hires, would suggest, hey, Maryland knows what the heck they're doing. And anytime you hire one of their baseball coaches, your hit rate on that's probably pretty good. So, I mean, those are the names I'm kind of hearing right now. I mean, I would probably keep a close eye on the Mitch, Fitz and Rob Vaughn names for now. And honestly, if BU and Mack Rhoades decided to go that way, I feel really good about either one of those hires. I think if you look at Mitch and the job that he did as the head coach, it's one thing to recruit really well at an assistant level, but he went to McLennan, led them to the national championship. Has been an excellent head coach there. Dan, is at LSU now, has had chances to take head coaching jobs in the past, just hasn't done it, hasn't found the right fit. Obviously, Baylor sounds like it's the right fit for him. And then you look at Rob Vaughn. I mean, the thing about him that's interesting is, they had just an okay year a couple of years ago, but they make that big surge this year. He's just one of those guys that's a very cerebral coach, but yet he's very in tune with kind of the younger player. He's hard-nosed. He knows what it takes to win at a program like Baylor that, frankly, let's be real honest. I mean, that program needs a little spice. I mean, they need a little bit of spice to catch up with the Texas A&Ms, and the TCUs of the world.
Kendall, how much when it comes to equivalency sports potentially and probably getting full scholarships for what they've been asking for a long, long time, changes coaching searches around the country because schools will have the option to not do that. Now, I would assume that most of them, if they want to remain competitive, will, but how does that change things going forward?
It's massive. I think if you're a school like Baylor, you have a lot more to sell than you did before because, the fact of the matter is with BU is compared to some other schools around the country and around the region, they didn't quite have the financial aid to help. And that's not to say it's, Mack Rhoades' fault. It's not the president's office fault. It's just kind of the reality of the situation. And, with the transformation committee, when they meet in the fall, all indications are that the transformation committee will make it where conferences are making their own scholarship rules, and they're going to make it to where teams can hire as many assistant coaches they want. So what happens is these programs that have, an advantage over Baylor from a scholarship standpoint, all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore because they're all playing by the same rules and the same regulations. So I think for a program like Baylor, it allows you to really sell that program because all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what, we might not be in the best, financial aid position right now, but guess what? In probably 2 years, it's not going to matter anyway.
Kendall, before we move on to the College World Series, one more thing on Baylor. When it came to Steve Rodriguez and his tenure, what did you kind of feel was like you've mentioned, they need some juice right now, and they definitely were running out of that there at the end. But what do you think was ultimately the issues that arose for the eventual departure between Rodriguez and Baylor?
It is really weird because number one, I thought that was a really good hire when they made it. Obviously, Steve got to them some regionals. They were always contenders, but it's just one of those deals where they never just kind of got over the hump. And the problem you run into, and it's not necessarily Steve's fault or anybody else's, the problem you run into is people, and it's not to say Baylor shouldn't expect more. They absolutely should. But, people start to get a little impatient with this rebuilding process when, TCU's going to Omaha. You've got A&M and Texas in Omaha this year. Texas Tech, of all places, we all remember when those guys would have prayed and had their last right be just to get to Omaha. Texas Tech gets to Omaha every other year. So it's just, it's one of those deals where, Baylor is no longer a place, or frankly, any other job in the state, whether it's U of H or whatever, it's no longer a place where you can just show up and you get, 7 years to kind of turn them in an Omaha contender. I'm not saying you've got to do it in 2 or 3, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at Baylor, that was not a program, especially after this year, losing some guys, that you looked at next year and went, you know what, I think they're going to contend for the conference championship. And I think if you're Matt Rhodes, he's probably honest with himself about that and made the decision.
All right, Kendall, thanks for all that insight on the Baylor coaching search again. Would not be surprised if the names you brought up, some of them have been filtered into our Sikkim 365 premium section as well.
No doubt. I guarantee you Brian's on it.
Yeah, no, he's out. In fact, he posted something earlier today, so glad we had you on today as well. What a field in Omaha, the College Baseball World Series. 4 SEC teams, actually maybe 6 if you count Texas and Oklahoma. 3 former Southwest Conference rivals, and then, of course, you have Notre Dame and Stanford in the mix as well. How intriguing is this field, in your opinion?
I think it's awesome because the thing about this field is when you look at all the teams in it, you're not looking at any specific team and going, you know what, I think they've got a huge advantage. I think there's a great chance they win this thing. If Tennessee was in it, you're looking at it as, you know what, I think Tennessee's got a huge advantage. But, when you look at this field, you look on one side of the bracket with Texas A&M, Oklahoma and Notre Dame. Texas is playing really well right now. Oklahoma and A&M are sizzling hot. But then you got Notre Dame, who knocked off Tennessee. They've got, 18 seniors on their team. They feel like they're playing with house money right now. So they're playing well. Then you look at the other bracket, you got Stanford, who's the number 2 national seed, got to Omaha last year. Ole Miss and Arkansas are playing at a really high level. So I think when you look at the field overall, man, it's just a stout. Then you have Auburn. I'm sorry, I didn't mention them. But, Butch Thompson, has him back in Omaha for the second time in 3 years. So it's teams with a lot of experience. And frankly, I had somebody ask me for a prediction earlier. I don't really have one yet. Honest truth, I have no idea who I think is going to win this thing.
Kendall, I do have to, as a Florida State grad and someone who has long suffered wanting a College World Series with being so close, so many times with Mike Martin Sr. Mike Martin Jr. has been let go, and staying out of the complex, web that was kind of that situation there with a new athletic director. Where do you think they will go? Is it Link, Jarrett, or bust for them right now?
It absolutely is, and I would be very, very shocked if it's not Link Jarrett. I think, Florida State, I was talking to somebody close to their search the other day, and they're like, oh, we're kind of on hold right now. They're on hold because they're just waiting for Link Jarrett. And so I would be absolutely floored if Link Jarrett's not the head coach of Florida State. He played there. He coached under Mike Martin Sr. He loves Florida State. And the fact of the matter is, if you're Link and you look at Notre Dame's situation, you're looking at a situation to where, I'll lose 18 guys this year. This is as good as it's going to get. And I think Link realizes that, and I think he'll go to Florida State. And I think, honestly, he'll go to Florida State and absolutely kill it, and he'll lead them to the first national championship.
Oh, Kendall. I just don't.
You okay?
Yeah, it just the whole idea of it.
You got
My freshman year was 1990. I guess it would have been 99 that year where they lost to Miami late in that game. And it's like since then, like there's been a hole in my heart about it. So
there's no place in it. Well, Arkansas and Florida State are the two places that deserve a national championship more than anybody.
The best guess ever.
Yeah, there you go. Kendall, how much have your mentions been filled with Tennessee references, either from Tennessee fans or from opposing fans over the last, 3-4 days?
Apparently people don't like Tennessee, and I don't mind. I kind of go to the, I've covered these kids for a few years, and their off the field persona doesn't really meet who they are on the field. So I feel bad for them. But the thing about it is, when you play like that and you play loud, you play boisterous, you're mouthy, like you're going to create enemies. And so I think it's one of those things. If you're Tony Vitello, you're kind of telling your team, like, hey, under no circumstances are you on social media right now because it's not pretty. And you can't really blame people for going after them after some of the antics they pulled.
Kendall Rogers, I just now realized you're from Lufkin. Is that correct?
I am. Born and raised in Lufkin. I remember back in the day when you were patrolling East Texas.
Back in the day. Back in the day. Yeah, that's a long, long time ago. In fact, we lived there for a little bit, too. Plus, I did report from Lufkin and Nacogdoches. That's a baseball town. That's a passionate baseball town. So is that where it got in your blood?
Yeah, a little bit. So I was born and raised going to – so my dad went to A&M, and so I was born and raised going to, games at the old Farrell Field. Baylor Park, slightly better than the old Farrell Field. But, I remember going to games there. Dish Falk, Olsen Field back in the day at A&M, and I just kind of fell in love with college baseball. So when I was a junior or senior in high school back in the late 90s, I'm kind of thinking, you know what, there's a huge void in college baseball. And one thing just kind of led to another, and I've now been doing this for 25 years now. So I love it. But, yeah, how about, speaking of old Lufkin days, Fred Oliver, remember that name?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that was a great, great city for high school baseball and the passion. Plus, it's a great connection as well in many ways to A&M. So when you look, Texas has now been the 38 of 75 College World Series. We know others have got a great history as well. What they did at East Carolina didn't surprise me, even though they were on the ropes in that game too. But it's like East Carolina the jungle might have released a little bit too much happy a little bit early, huh?
Well, they might have had some good stuff that last game because I don't know if you saw some of the crowd shots, but they were not feeling any pain. And I give Texas a lot of credit. They were down and out in that second game. It looks like they're going to lose. And what happens? Texas turns on the Jets. They come back and win that game. And Tristan Stevens threw the final game for Texas. And, that was his third outing in that weekend. And frankly, his previous two outings that weekend weren't very good. And so he went out there and threw really well for him and got him the win. That to me is kind of an X factor for the Hornets going into the World Series, is the fact that he threw really well in Greenville. If he throws really well in Omaha, I could see Texas going on a run in that bracket.
Well, they open up with Notre Dame. They're red hot. They're an experienced team. A&M and Oklahoma on the other side of that bracket. Who knows? We might – if Texas wins their game with Notre Dame, right, no matter what, it's against a rival?
It absolutely is. So, imagine if you have Texas and A&M playing for a bracket championship to play for the national title. There will not be much love lost in the stands for that one.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Be a hell of a crowd, though.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely a great crowd. And, of course, Oklahoma beat them in the Big 12 tournament as well. Kendall, thank you very much for your time. Great to have you on the show, man.
Anytime.
Save my name now under the number and not unknown anymore. I appreciate that.
When Baylor hires a coach, let's talk again. Yes. I think we might be talking to you again pretty soon.
Okay, we will. Thank you very much. Thanks for that offer. Again, Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball.com. He and others do a great job. It's a subscription site. But if you're a college baseball fan, like, for example, some that are trying to figure out some of the coaching searches, including Baylor, our Brian Etheridge is unbelievable when it comes to what he's got up there today on the premium section, as well as they start to count down whenever Baylor and Mack Rhodes make a decision on who replaces Steve Rodriguez.
Yeah, I'd known for a while that Kendall was from same area. I'm a little different, more northeast Texas, but definitely crossed paths with Lufkin quite a bit and was born not too far from there. So I've known that connection there. But first time really hearing him, on this show and talking to him, and great to talk and pick his brain on college baseball. It's a fun sport to follow that probably could be even bigger, but he's made it, helped make it as big as it is. And I admire that he saw that opening way back when, 20-plus years ago, and said, you know what? This is something I love, and there's not a lot of coverage of it. I'm going to hit this home, and now look what it's turned into. I mean, I think that's awesome that he ventured out and saw that opening and took full advantage. And that's the guy that I've known as the college baseball guy now for, heck, as long as I can remember, quite frankly. I mean, he's been doing it for so long at this point. So, yeah, it was really awesome to talk to him and talk a little bit about what is a really exciting field, but talk as well about some of this, coaching changes. Florida State, obviously, very interesting, but Baylor here, a lot of people are anticipating that move here in, probably the next couple of days, if maybe a little bit longer than that.
So interesting. Go ahead.
I kind of agree. I mean, given what we know where Mac is, like on vacation and trying to,
he's out of pocket.
He's out of pocket.
But that's sometimes when he's done his greatest work.
Yeah, but also to do that and then to, it tells me that he's getting close. And the way he kind of talked about it 2 weeks ago when it first went down, we didn't talk to him until 5 days later. He had already whittled through his list pretty well at that point. So a lot of it probably had to be let's wait till at least the super regionals, because you've got, 48 teams that you can now all of a sudden talk to candidates for. Not that he had 48 different candidates, but there's probably 4 or 5 in there you think that, I'll call you when the season's over.
Well, one thing he told us, and he shared this story with us, when he was talking to Dave Aranda, discussing the job with Dave Aranda, one of the things he did is he went to where he was, to the local airport, and found a room, like one of those rooms you can get to do a little work, and ended up for 3 hours on the phone. And so perhaps he's out of pocket because either something is pretty much in hand, or possibly because this is when he grinds, and along with his staff and along with others helping Baylor trying to find their next baseball coach. And they do need someone, and if you go down the list of some of who he mentioned Gautreau at Mississippi State, obviously the Mitch Thompson is, and I think it's fair to say this, he's a fan favorite. Former players love Mitch Thompson, but that doesn't mean he's the favorite or the candidate that will be the one taken. If he gets chosen as the next baseball coach, I know that Bryce Cherry in the Trib wrote a column about it, that he should be. That's not always the way that Mac has worked, although that would be a popular hire. They don't need a popular hire, and I'm not saying that he wouldn't be the right hire. They need to make sure it's the right hire, and if Mitch Thompson's the guy, we would love it too for him, because we know what he's also done at Baylor, and also right down the corner. I drive by their stadium every single day on my way to the studio at McLennan Community College. All right, when we come back, the U.S. Open Golf Tournament is this week in Brookline. Yesterday we had a PGA Tour caddy on, and Micah Fugit. But you know the story about who's taking the money or who is doing what, getting what, the amenities, the perks, and whatever else. John Rahm, young stud golfer, I think won the U.S. Open last year, right? He is the one that might have put everything into perspective without throwing anybody under the bus, and we'll hear from him about a minute from him. Today's press conference at Brookline, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza. You can go online, marcos.com, and they have numerous specials. Different codes that you can use, like hot to go or this and that, and you can get 3-topping pizzas for a certain amount, and they pretty much stay the same. There's a little bit of a change. The Pepperoni Magnifico is PepMag, P-E-P-M-A-G is the code. You can get a nice price on the Pepperoni Magnifico, which has got every inch of that pizza. It's like covered in pepperoni with a couple of different types of pepperoni. Bob Mocco, I spoke to earlier today, does an amazing job. 5 stores now in the Waco area. Robinson, Hewitt, Woodway, China Spring, and Belmead. Marcos.com is where you can go online and order. You can pick it up. You can have it delivered as well to wherever you are, and over 1,000 stores nationwide at Marcos.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
I was going to get to this in the opening segment, and we got kind of tied up on many things of the stories we were covering. But here is a tweet from Ross Dellinger. We've had him on the show, Ross, many different times. And this is interesting when it comes to the NCAA released that letter about a week ago about they're going to start looking at some of the NIL and the possibilities of whatever might happen. You did not get that? Let me see here. Yeah, I thought I said it to you. But it's Ross Dellinger. This is what it reads. In what's believed to be the first serious inquiry in the NIL era, NCAA enforcement visited Miami and interviewed several people, including billionaire booster John Ruiz, as sources have told SI Now. Ruiz confirms the interview to SI and says, I have nothing to hide. So I don't know if that's just kind of grandstanding or legitimate, or they are going to at least look at a couple of this and that. We don't know what will happen. Do they have any power to do anything? But that's the first time we've seen that it's actually somebody from the NCAA enforcement office has contacted an NIL type situation or story.
If I were them, I would ask John Ruiz everything he's doing. And John Ruiz is a smart guy. He'll probably tell them exactly what he's doing. And then they can determine what among that they don't like and try to regulate. And then ultimately do nothing because that's what they do.
2 days in Miami prying into NIL deals. And so there's that. I'm extremely comfortable with what we're doing. I have nothing to hide. It went super well. NCAA trying to wrap their hands around this sudden change of environment. They're trying to figure out how the landscape is working, Ruiz said. And there's other parts of that story in SI on SI.com as well. Well, so at least they went to see somebody, you know. I don't know, again, you think it's legitimate, or do you think they're trying to, it allows them to learn a little bit more about what then they can do as far as rules or whatever, or is it grandstanding? Could be all three?
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, I don't
think they're going to interview him just to say they interviewed him. I mean, I think people would see right through that and realize that's what they were doing. I think they're trying to actually enforce something, but they don't even know what they're allowed to enforce. They don't even know exactly what's going on, hence having to talk to him and probably figure out half of what's going on. But, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that they have their first big, let's go talk to somebody, and it's the guy who everybody would name as the first big guy that they know. So it's like if they didn't go talk to John Ruiz, then I think that would send the message that everybody can just do whatever they want to, because that's the impression that everyone's under, and particularly with him, no matter how many times he says it's on the up and up or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, grandstanding does nothing for you. Grandstanding's a waste of time, and they've already wasted plenty of time and plenty of money. So at this point, I would hope they're actually going and conducting things that might be beneficial, whether or not they actually change rules or otherwise.
Here's another quote from John Ruiz. A lot of NCAA bylaws are hard to reconcile with the ability and right to enter into NIL deals. I think the NCAA is starting to get a handle on the fact that it's not capable of navigating within the NIL laws and their own bylaws. There is an internal conflict. I felt the people from the NCAA were extremely pleasant. They're tasked with the job of making sure they gather enough information, create a functioning standard for everybody. There has to be better regulation. All right, also, the U.S. Open is this week in Brookline, Massachusetts. For a second, we've already discussed that with Micah Fugit, a PGA Tour caddy. Here is Jon Rahm in what I think, at least in my opinion, the best way to describe what most people on the PGA Tour who have remained there, the core of their beliefs.
I do see the appeal that other people see towards the LIV Golf. I do see some of the, how do I put this delicately, points or arguments they can make towards why they prefer it. To be honest, part of the format is not really appealing to me. Shotgun 3 days to me is not a golf tournament, no cut. It's that simple. I want to play against the best in the world in a format that's been going on for hundreds of years, right? So that's what I want to see. And yeah, money is great, but when Kelly and I, this first thing happened, we started talking about it. We're like, will our lifestyle change if I got $400 million? No, it will not change one bit. Truth be told, I could retire right now with what I've made and I've lived a very happy life and not play golf again. So I've never really played the game of golf for monetary reasons. I play for the love of the game, and I want to play against the best in the world. I've always been interested in history and legacy, and right now the PGA Tour has that. There's a meaning when you win the Memorial Championship. There's a meaning when you win Arnold Palmer's event at Bay Hill. There's a meaning when you win LA, Torrey, some of these historic venues. And that to me matters a lot, right? I have, after winning this past U.S. Open, only me and Tiger have won at Torrey Pines, and we're both the golf course that we like, making putts on the 18th hole, right? That's a memory I'm going to have forever that not many people can say. So my heart is with the PGA Tour. That's all I can say. It's not my business or my character to judge anybody who thinks otherwise. And for a lot of people, I'm not going to lie, those next 3-4 years are worth basically their retirement plan they're giving them. It's a very nice compensation to then retire and sail off to the sunset.
I thought what he said, in many ways describing the integrity of certain events, the history and the tradition, that doesn't mean that other leagues haven't been formed that have eventually hit The ABA and the AFL come to mind as far as I'm concerned. I thought what he said was probably as well said as anybody I've heard in the last month or so since LIV really became even more of a hot topic. So that's John Rahm, who's the defending U.S. Open champ.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson should just hire him to talk for him and explain whatever he needs to have explained, because that's two very different responses. And I'm glad that he acknowledged the greed part of this as well. A lot of guys talking about like they have to basically live hand to mouth, even though they've already got retirement money, but they just want that extra zero on the end of it or whatever. And, it's definitely tempting. Like if somebody walked in here, because I know we'll get the immediate response on the chat over here is like, well, if some radio station from Saudi Arabia, well, I wouldn't go to a radio station in Saudi Arabia. Maybe if I was broadcasting from America still. But yeah, like offered me $100 million life-changing money. In my position, yeah. But if I was already worth $80 million, I don't know if it would be as tempting to make another $100 million, because I don't really need it. Now, for people who are handling that kind of money, then, I'm sure it's a lot different, and I can definitely see the appeal for some of these guys who weren't making life-changing retirement money who can now make it in like 2 years' time. I mean, I get that. So, yeah, it's like I said yesterday, it's a predicament. It really is, because I don't think there's this good versus evil like it's been made out to be. I think there's a little bit of both of those things involved to some extent. But you can't deny the life-changing money that's available, especially, for the caddies and people like that who aren't being compensated as well as they could be. I can't blame them for, we get travel paid for and we get, way more money. Like that's hard to tell anybody that they shouldn't, want to pursue that. But it's I don't know, man. It's a weird deal.
I think that, look, the PGA needs to admit that these are the things they're doing wrong.
They're college football, and this is NIL.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just take care of it. Believe me, you have the money. You're not fooling anybody that you don't have the money. You have the money to do the things necessary. Now, do you have the money to maybe bowl people over with $400 million? No, because you're not sitting on a reserve of the most desired commodity in the world. But you do have the money, and you have the sponsors, and you have everything you need to make those things happen. And so just make them happen, and then you can take away one of the other arguments that LIV Golf would have. And John Rahm says it perfectly. Look, he could retire today, and I like Dustin Johnson, but when he says like, well, I want to make sure that, I can retire and have
come on, dude.
Like, do you want a third jet? Is that what it is?
It's so greedy. It's greed.
I mean, like, come on, and look, if Phil had come out and said, look, I like money, man. You guys know me. I like money.
Most people do. But
so
and so that's John Rahm. I've listened. I've watched the Golf Channel. I love the Golf Channel. I love it during major events or like the Players Championship or even the Memorial, as he mentioned, or Bay Hill with Arnold Palmer's name attached to it. But I thought he probably made the best comments, the ones that were most sound and reasonable and also fair, in my opinion. By the way, he just walked into our studio. He's going to join us in a moment. Dr. Hunter Taylor wrote a book, Draw the Line. It's about who is now the head coach at Jeff Traylor at UTSA, but also his coaching journey and the history of East Texas high school football. We're going to have him in the studio here. He's in studio. We'll have him live here in just a little bit. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. 1943. I can say their name, say 1943, still in business, still doing incredibly well, still have great product and customer service in stock. But I will tell you this, they're also building a brand new facility here in Waco. They have one in Bryan as well, Pioneer Steel and Pipe, but they're building a brand new facility in Waco, which means what already is incredible product and a lot of it, great customer service, and it's unmatched. Now they have bigger, better, faster, and stronger, and that's about to open sometime soon as well. But they will never lose their core values of who they are and how they became who they are and how they started in 1943. And no matter, and some local businesses have been eaten up, gobbled up, and ruined by big box stores. Not them, because they never flinched. They just kept doing their job. And if you want to build something, metal buildings, if you want to build something, real estate and or business, they will have what you need when it comes to product, pipe, steel, and metal, deliver it to you, unload it for you, and make sure you get what you need. And they don't build the customer base they have because they're pretty good. They build it because they've been great since 1943, and people come back again and again and again along with new customers. PioneerBoys.com.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Shaken, soft loft, and it's caught inside the 10. Drew Estrada.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Tim Brandon will join us at a little after 5. Craig's Off the Radar is around the corner, but we are now joined in studio by Dr. Hunter Taylor. He got his degree at Texas. He got his doctorate at Baylor and also received his master's at Ole Miss. 2 of those teams are in the college baseball World Series, by the way. It just came to my attention that's true. Dr. Taylor is an East Texan. He's written a book called Draw the Line. And although it focuses quite a bit on the journey of Jeff Traylor, who's now the UTSA football coach, it's all about the history of high school football in East Texas as well. Dr. Taylor in studio with us with Paul Craig and David Smoak. So when did this become like... Well, that mic's got to get up. Yeah, just move it right in front of you. I'm sorry. When did this become your passion?
So actually my last year at Baylor, so I was doing
a little bit closer. Sorry about that.
Right there.
There you go. All right.
So I'm at my last year at Baylor doing my dissertation for my doctorate. And compliance had an issue with me doing anything basketball related, obviously with working with Coach Drew. And so we decided, hey, let's go ahead and do a deep dive because I wanted to do it over coaching. Let's do a deep dive over Texas high school football and looking at a couple programs that were consistently good. You had these dynamic head coaches, et cetera. So we did 6 of them. We did Coach Traylor at Gilmer, Coach Surratt at Carthage, Coach Dodge in the South Lake Carroll context, Chad Morris, Lake Travis, Gary Joseph, and then Tom Westerberg, and all of the
it was bangers.
It was incredible, just to learn. But the one that always stuck out was Jeff's because he was so transparent about the staff that he had to the left and the right of him, and then their stories about who they learned under. And I remember thinking, like, this would be so cool to take a shot at trying to really unpack how much work all of this was collectively, from school board, superintendent, principal, the whole deal. And then their paths intersected so much with so many other great East Texas programs where you could really get a gist of the history and how unique high school football is in that region of the country, as you all know.
Well, for Gilmer in particular, for people who don't know, it's a small town.
Yeah.
And that high school football team is its absolute lifeblood.
Yeah.
It is.
We make jokes. There's a guy that Smokey and I both know. His name's Ellen. He writes for the paper there.
Got it.
And I'm sure you came across him. He sits next to me at Cowboys games quite a bit, and he is.
How is his emotion after a loss?
I mean, it's not good.
Like once a year.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, but he's kind of the historian or whatever of Gilmer, and the passion that city has for it is different. So to be able to go and win there and win consistently is a big deal.
No, it is a big deal. And it's just like there's certain places where, just like what you said, like a football team kind of the people that live there, it's part of their identity, right? And so like you take a great pride. Everybody wants to see the best version of themselves in something. And so that's one thing I think that Jeff does such a great job is like it's the best version of how we see ourselves as East Texas, is this person that was, he's intelligent, respectful, creative, all these things, but he's actually he's a native. Yeah. He learned under other East Texans, et cetera. And then I think obviously when you talk with him, he loves the region and just acknowledging all the different historic things.
How much did the book being written, and you release it on the 28th, you have one in the studio, and I appreciated you asking me to be a part of it as well. I always regret probably that I didn't write a couple of my own back just because of all the years there.
Totally.
How much does his rise in collegiate coaching help bring attention to this book?
I think that's why you looked at that as maybe the focal story, because enough people are paying attention now. Like he's, the cover of Dave Campbell's and, national media. What was he? One of 4 coaching finalists for Coach of the Year. And I'm sure he'll always be rumored for jobs from here on out just because he's so talented. But because of that, he's got this amazing platform. But now you can tell all these side stories and get a good understanding of places. Back when we talked about Jacksonville, those days with Coach Long and what, the time that we got to all talk together, or even acknowledging how it goes back to Coach Parker and Marshall and, his great rivalry with Coach Surratt and Carthage. And it's just, I think it was a perfect timing type deal to really unpack so many side stories that people would love to tell. But it's hard to get noticed just because it's the kind of an under the radar part of the country.
What about that, about East Texas, makes it maybe even more intriguing for a book? Because it is, again, there's those regions of Texas. And you think about the movie Bernie, where it takes place in Carthage, and they describe the regions of Texas, but the Piney Woods and all that, how it's its own kind of thing. And even the high school football there different than the high school football in, say, some of the bigger places like Dallas or Houston.
Absolutely. I think one thing I wanted to take a shot at, because it's been 30 years since Friday Night Lights came out, right? And so that depicted a region, a time where, you shut down the town Friday night, everybody was there. It was the centerpiece of a place. And you also got a picture probably of rural America, right? And Texas, I think, is just, it's exploding. Waco looks totally different to me, and we've only been gone a couple years. And is there still, it's now a state of cities kind of thing. Is there still a part that embodies that narrative of, the town shutting down, everybody gathering together, and, we celebrate all these things? I think East Texas still is that way. And it's one place where, the coach is still a moral leader for a lot of these communities.
I also think you mentioned this earlier. It's in an area that's somewhat remote, even though it's again, it's not that far, but there's a passion, but there's a pride among all of those towns, even though they might not like each other and want to beat the hell out of each other.
Yes.
Isn't there a passion that East Texas kind of seems like they're separated from everybody else?
Like the SEC?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
perfect. Yeah, that's a perfect comparison because you think back when Coach King and Longview won it in 18, and what was that, the 4th highest attendance ever to see a high school football game? Well, that's not only just Longview traveling.
No doubt, yeah.
That's, Gilmer, U Springs, White Oak, you could name all of them because everybody sees that as that's kind of a flagship part that we all gather around, and we want to cheer on Coach King too.
So you've written this book. You wrote books about different coaches, and all of those guys are absolute alpha dogs as well.
Yes.
How do you go about doing this? If I'm going to do a speech, I will start accumulating sticky notes on top of each other, and next thing you know, there's like this, and then I try to piece it together. That's just for an 8 to 12 minute speech.
Yes.
How do you go about doing this? What was that like?
Well, I think maybe other people are better than I am, and I was new. I'd never written something this comprehensive before, and obviously cared a lot. I think all of us care about things that our name's on and what you want to try and hit, and you want to make sure and give credit to all the right people and that you tell as accurate of a story, but it's also a story that shows the best version of ourselves, right? And so it took about 6 years. And the only reason, and again, I think that was a gift that it was 6 years because storylines evolve. And I think it's the perfect time where you've seen, I think one of the coolest things about that story too is you always wonder about certain programs if they're really built to last, and then you take the figurehead off.
Yes.
And they branch off, right? And what happens to that organization when you no longer have the face of the program? Does it still kind of go on this trajectory? And then you saw what Coach Turner did where he stepped in. I think they have correct me if I'm wrong, it might be the longest streak currently in Texas on how many Thanksgiving weekends they've played in a row now.
It's among the best because even with Coach Metzel, and of course
they still haven't broken that streak.
Yeah.
And then you go from Coach Turner, he retires, comes down to San Antonio, and Coach Metzel, and then their first 2 years he's in Jerry World. So it shows that it's still, everybody still feels comfortable with the leadership in place, and that's rare. Because now it's you hear more and more stories about, we question the school leadership, we question the coaches, all this kind of stuff. They've had such great alignment for a long period of time. Their superintendent's been in office 20 years. How many superintendents get that kind of tenure nowadays?
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that's kind of interesting about Jeff is you look at a lot of the high school coaches that have become college coaches. Gus Malzahn was at one of the biggest high schools in Arkansas.
Yes.
Gilmer's not one of the biggest high schools in Texas.
No.
And when he started getting assistant coaching interviews, he was at a small school, not at he didn't jump from a 6A school.
Right.
That's pretty unique.
Totally unique. And Jeff was so great about this process of making sure that we got a good picture about the staff. And that you got all these characters, like we mentioned, Matt Turner, Alan Metzel, Todd Barr, Kurt Traylor, the list goes on and on. But all of them also said, don't get it twisted. If he's not the one doing all this stuff and getting everybody together in such a way, and he's got such a gift for people, y'all might be closer to him than I am. But everybody feels like they know Jeff. You go around East Texas, everybody feels like they're his best friend. All this kind of stuff. That's a gift he has where I think all of the pieces align, just like you said. That's a small town. They had never won a state title before. That was not the place when we were growing up, when you were covering, that people were moving to send their kid to the school. Their enrollment's growing. They got a brand new high school 2 years ago. You're seeing things. People are putting money into a place. I think in the best story of high school football and what it can do, that's a case study right there that shows that there are some great benefits with having a really good character-driven high school football program or any other sport program.
What was it like to, or how fresh, should I say, were the feelings still when you talked about Desmond Pollard with these guys?
Especially with the player side.
Yeah.
You kind of had to be very sensitive when you're having those conversations. McLean Carter, I thought he was phenomenal in how candid and mature he was to reflect on something like that, like you're just saying. And McLean obviously has GJ's little brother, and I loved how he even, to have somebody that idolizes their older brother, but also came into his own. He had a heck of a senior year, had a good career by his own. But him talking about when we moved to Gilmer, Texas, I didn't know anybody. That was my best friend. And we're spending the night, each other, all that kind of stuff. And then we go all the way up, and then he's with me and my brother on kind of playing basketball one day, and a tragedy occurs. And you're right there. You saw it. I mean, that's traumatic for you to even want to think about and rehearse and everything. And I just appreciated how he trusted me enough to be able to share and reflect. And he did a great job. It was just an impressive person. The others were impressive too. But just like what you were saying right there, you could tell that was still a very sensitive thing to talk about.
I think McLean Carter, for those who don't know, to tie it into Central Texas, was at Salado High School, I think. Was he not? Before he moved to Gilmer. I remember that. There is something about that area, East Texas, and we had a baseball writer who's from Lufkin, so this has become like an East Texas show, and it wasn't even planned that way, but I don't care. That's fine. It's a very passionate area. There's a lot of schools from that area. There's dominance with Carthage. Gilmer's had their run among others. But there is an amazing array of how many schools have won a state championship.
Yes.
Like a bunch.
Yes.
That from that area. That's something that always was impressive to me.
Totally.
They almost fed off of each other.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, Longview winning was the first time, they hate to hear this, they don't have to hear it anymore, since 1937.
Yeah.
But they were as good as anybody consistently among everybody, but they always couldn't quite get over the hump. They had to play Lake Travis a couple of times among some other teams as well.
And I remember, I know you were covering this I remember when they played Mike Johnston's Katy Tigers.
Yeah, 1997.
I remember idolizing that roster because that was front page every week was the talent on that team.
And that was like, oh my God, they lost. And that was the downfall of Robert Biro, who was the coach eventually that led to Pat Collins coming in from Louisiana as well.
And Coach Biro was on that Gilmer staff.
And there you go. Absolutely. Yeah, he's a great guy. I love Robert Biro. What's been the reaction overall? Dr. Hunter Taylor wrote the book, Draw the Line. We'll give you some information. It's coming out on the 28th, but there's some book signings coming up. In fact, this weekend at 80 Acre Market in Gilmer, the first one. What's been the reaction? Are there things that you also could touch on that people like, oh, I don't know why you went there? Is there a little bit of that too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reaction so far has been nothing but good. Like kind of like you just said about the SEC or the East Texas. Yeah. I mean, everybody is kind of like, how can we help? We'd love to be a part of this. Come on and talk about it, all that kind of stuff. You're included with that. If like there's just a hospitality support, it seems very unconditional, and people are excited that this is a region that gets to be on the front of something.
Do you have that graphic, Garrett? There you go. Draw the Line. That's the book. You can see the fan base in the background, and Dr. Hunter Taylor's the one reached out to me and asked me to be a part of it in a way with a comment or two about the history of East Texas as well. Your son's at the Scott Drew basketball camp, and of course you got your doctorate here at Baylor. What's that been like? And you had a chance to meet him or see him, not meet him because you've seen him before.
Yes.
The first time you saw him in a while, I guess yesterday or so?
Yeah, we got together a little bit yesterday, and my boys are having a blast. I mean, everybody's fun there. It's a gorgeous facility. It's the best environment which you want your kids in, of how he handles it, and Coach Beard handling camp and all that kind of stuff. They're just great, and Coach Drew is always unbelievable with hospitality and, takes you back in, greets my wife, talks to my kids, invites us into practice to watch, all that kind of stuff. And he's unbelievable, and it's been so cool to see how successful he's become.
Yeah, what's the worst mood you ever saw him in?
Because I was a graduate assistant coach in the start of the 2013-14 year. You remember that year where you had Isaiah, Brady Heslop. I mean, that roster was loaded. Now, especially when you look at Rearview, I think there was like 6 NBA players, 1 NFL player, loaded. And we had that lull where we weren't winning. It was the start of conference, and then you had the great comeback, and we made the Sweet 16. He was the same every day, because I was like super eager, wanting to show, you're trying to outwork and all that kind of stuff. I remember arriving every day early. He arrived same time, same mood. Makes the same
every
joke,
day.
Makes the same jokes at the coffee pot area, same deal. Transparent, never was secretive, going through any of that, never blamed. Remarkable.
Well, and when they won the national title over a year ago,
he
still to this day remembers everybody that ever had any impact whatsoever, even the smallest impact on that school.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. He sent a text. I don't know how many he sent. I mean, I don't know how he had that list. I don't know how they did such a great job keeping inventory. I mean, they mailed stuff out to people. I had a shirt mailed to me with my name included on it. I had a minor role.
Is that Karen Craig? Is it?
Yeah.
Miss Karen's awesome.
Yeah. She's the star of that documentary, if you haven't seen it, by the way. She and Tweety Carter.
I have not seen it, but I want to.
You'll love it. You'll love it. Hey, man, congratulations. Good luck. So the 18th this weekend at 80 Acre in Gilmer. And there's others. And again, if you want to reach out to me, we'll put this podcast up and we'll also put it up on my site, Smoky.com as well. And also see if we can get you some more hits as well. Congratulations. Thank you for asking me to be a part of it. And thanks for being here.
Thanks for everything you've done for me.
Hey, you too. Dr. Hunter Taylor, it's a great book. Draw the line on a lot of it, history and the pipeline and the spider web of connections of various schools and eventually one of the main core. It is, without question, the success in where it all started with Jeff Traylor, who's now the head coach at UTSA. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports, back in a moment. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. I was there today, in fact. I saw Cheyenne when I walked in the front door. I said, Cheyenne, I was with my brothers a couple of weekends ago, and they smoked all of our cigars. And I needed some more for me. And she said, hey, what about this one? La Fontana, Churchill, great, very smooth cigar. And then even the torpedo tip is a little bit thicker. Both of them very smooth. That's what she set up for me, and that's what I got. And that's what I'll smoke on the golf course whenever I play yet again coming up later on this week. But they also have Vita Dreams. It's not even called that anymore, but it's a gummy you can chew. If you get a little bit of anxiety before you go to bed or you have too much on your mind, you don't fall asleep, you toss and turn. If you're one of those, Vita Dreams can help you out. It's a gummy, and it will help you get a more relaxing night's sleep, save you some sleep, so when you wake up, you don't have an, oh my God, I wish I could hit snooze. There's still some mornings you feel that way anyway. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans with a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded with the great brands of cigars. I gave, in fact, Jack a La Fontana and an Ashton Churchill today. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. Tell Cheyenne, Ashley, and Carol Smokey sent you in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Jeep Freedom Days are going on now at Allen Samuels in Waco. The new 2022 Impressive Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 have 2.9% for 72 months, plus $4,000 competitive bonus cash. That's right, and $4,000 bonus cash. This incentive on the new 2022 Wagoneers for a limited time only at Allen Samuels in Waco. First responders get $500 extra cash. Come shop the huge new car and truck inventory today at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingram with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Brad Boozer Jeweler joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. This is a great time for your business.
Exactly. And one other thing we do that a lot of people don't know is we buy jewelry, heirloom pieces, gold, silver bars, gold bullion, watches, anything you may have that you want to. If you don't want to use it and remake something like I did in a state yesterday and I looked at 35 pieces, well, they're probably going to sell me back 30 because it's something they're not going to wear, nothing to use. So if you're looking to get a few bucks or to sell something or something you just don't wear anymore, I make my wife go through her jewelry box about every 6 to 8 months, and the things that she doesn't wear on a daily basis, this sounds horrible, but I take away from her, and then I'll put in my estate counter, but then that gives me the chance to rebuy her something new moving forward. Instead of looking down 20 years down the road and you have 300 pieces of jewelry, it's something to refresh and make her buy something new along the way.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
You know, we have this show every afternoon, 3 until 6, and then our staff behind the scenes, many of them, of course, I mention them as much as we can. Jack, Emery, Garrett, and Faith is not here today. Sometimes it's Levi. But when the various segments are then placed up on YouTube, and then they then become kind of their own little entity, so to speak. And then the one we did yesterday, the segment about coaches' tenure and staying in one place, and we were discussing that, got a lot of play on what was later on up on YouTube. And one of the names we did mention, but it was a little bit later in the conversation, about Mike Gundy as someone who was stuck, even though his name has been up, sometimes maybe from his agent or even his interest, but he's been around a long, long time. But one name in which we did not mention, which, and again, it wasn't because we were wrong, was Kyle Willingham at Utah.
Oh, yeah. Kyle Willingham's been there, I mean, since the day Urban Meyer left to go to Florida. And that's been a long time. That's been 3 Urban Meyer jobs ago that Kyle Willingham has been there. And, yeah, he's done an excellent job. And, you know, they're contending look to contend to the conference crown again in the Pac-12 this year. So, yeah, forgot him. That's certainly a really good one to mention. Back on Mike Gundy, I think that the Arkansas job is settled now. Takes away like the one that everybody was afraid he would go to, because that's a pretty close move geographically, where he could still essentially recruit in the same spots he was, but maybe hit some bigger home runs because of the SEC. But now that Arkansas is kind of stable with Sam Pittman, maybe there's less panic from Oklahoma State fans about him leaving. But he does have that lifetime contract plus a year or whatever it is.
His name has come up on occasion, and I would see why. I can see why.
Well, a lot of it had to do with him and T-Bone not seeing eye to eye, but T-Bone passed, so, I mean, that's, out of the way. But if you'll remember when the whole I'm a man, I'm 40 thing, and then, like, shortly after that, him and T-Bone were getting into it, and Gundy was going to go to, Tennessee? Mm-hmm. Remember all that jazz? Yeah. Like, that was the whole thing, and ultimately he just stayed where he was, and the rest is history. But, yeah, I mean, Mike Gundy certainly deserves to be mentioned as, one of those guys. But if in that same, speaking about him, yes, Kyle Whittingham does deserve to be mentioned as well as a long mainstay somewhere who hasn't maybe quite got over the top but has had tremendous success. Yeah,
I agree. And so we should have mentioned him. It wasn't that we were looking for like every name, but that's a name that should pop to mind. And that's kind of like, especially last year, they played in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And the great run. The quarterback changed immediately. And I mean,
I watched a lot of them.
Holy crap, they had Ohio State in trouble throughout most of that game, too.
That was an incredible game. And, yeah, I mean, they made the switch, Charlie Brewer for Cam Rising. And have you talked to Charlie Brewer at all, by the way?
Yeah, on occasion.
Just checked in with him. Just wondering, because I actually heard him brought up earlier today as well. And
in what, somebody, a Bearcast or something?
Yeah, we're doing the Bearcast, and somebody asked the question of, if you basically you take all the past Baylor quarterbacks from like the last 20 years or whatever. Really this stretch where they've been successful. So what, since like 2010 basically? Yeah. Take that stretch of guys. Whose arm would you put like on this fictional create a player, whose arm, whose running ability, whose durability, whose like smarts or whatever. It was like 5 things, and it was like RG3's legs, RG3's arm, RG3's speed. I think we did petty durability because he only missed the one stretch with the transverse process, whereas RG3 missed an entire year. Seth Russell was always hurt. So I think we went with him there. And then like as far as like Will or whatever, it was like Nick Florence or something like that. But we realized it was basically like the same 2 or 3, 4 guys,
Sure.
and there was nothing like there was no Charlie, like we'd take Charlie Brewer's whatever. So his name just got randomly mentioned, and I was just curious of how he was doing.
What? Charlie was, and maybe it was just because of the nature of the way they had to win, because RG3 had the great throw, of course, to Terrence Williams that beat Oklahoma, but for the most part, they weren't in nail biters. You know, when they were winning, they kind of, especially that year of the Heisman, they either won by a lot
or got grilled.
Or, I mean, they had that close game against Kansas State that they lost, but A&M and Oklahoma State beat the crap out of them. I mean, badly.
Yep.
And so those were different. You know, Bryce Petty didn't have a lot of nail biters because the offense was so explosively good. I would say the one thing I would take from Charlie Brewer is the end of the game. You need some crazy, stupid stuff to happen. Yeah. You need him to play completely different than he's played in the first 3 quarters. Charlie Brewer could turn on and be a different guy than he was for 48 minutes in those last 12.
And that probably got him as much heat as anything, was that he would not play well for 3.5 quarters. And all of a sudden, like, their defense would keep them in the game. And with 6 minutes to go, he would go 3 for 5 for 3 touchdowns and 175 yards. And you're like, where was this the entire game? It was always at the end. It was never, like, can you recall a game where he just, like, from start to finish, just played a crisp, clean game?
Well,
like,
there might be one or 2 or 10.
But you know what I'm saying, though. That was kind of what his thing was.
You talk about somebody that, like, you could draw it up in the sand if there would have been sand on the field. You're right. I mean, there were times, even the last year, and it was it Kansas State or whoever it was, where he rallied them from behind, and it just like, how did he... And yet again, he was one of the most polarizing quarterbacks at the end when he left. Well, and a lot of it was because they were terrible.
He had the worst offensive surrounding cast of any of the guys that we mentioned, and it's not even close.
No,
I mean, line-wise and all of that, yeah.
If you put Gutty, and I'll never forget, even though he had some amazing wins to throw to whoever it was it Denzel Mims in the end zone that beat Oklahoma State? But the game against TCU that went like how many overtimes when he scored one time on a keeper and then he threw the touchdown to death. I would think that was probably one of his greatest moments. The Oklahoma State game was, of course, and almost became when they were on the road in a year when they were 1-11 down in Austin. Remember, they're driving down the field. And he throws the ball a little bit over the head of Jalen Hurd in the end zone.
Now, granted, look, the Bryce Petty teams. They when they would lose because they were so good, it was because they fell, like, for Bryce, and he's joked about it, it's because he literally fell on his face. I mean, like, that's why they lost games. It wasn't anything that was like they lost a nail biter. Now Michigan State was a close game, but then again, they lost that game because they fell flat on their face because of different things. So it was a nail biter at the end, but for Michigan State, not really for Baylor, because Michigan State had to come back in that one. So yeah, I would say that would be the quality of who can turn off a crappy game when you're still close better. There was Charlie Brewer, but to Craig's point, that shouldn't have been a quality you'd have to have.
No, that's what became annoying. Yeah, was that it was always like at the very end. It's like if you just played this way for like 3 of the 4 quarters instead of the last 7 minutes, you would be 12-0. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's what it was. It was
Gerard Johnson at Texas A&M was a little bit like that, where he was so unbelievably athletically gifted, he would keep both teams in the game simultaneously drive to drive. And you're kind of like, what is going on? And then there were the teams that, were A&M was better than. Then in the fourth quarter, it's like, all right, let's quit playing with our food here and go win.
I don't have the box score in front of me. I don't. But the Kansas State game in that year, they were 2-7. He throws for 349, a couple of touchdowns, and of course rallied him from behind, was 31 of 39. I would love to know what his stats were at halftime. When we come, that's a great topic. topic, too.
3 of 10 for 102. Like, it would be something like that.
When we come, no question, off the radar with Craig Smoak, and Tim Brando will join us a little after 5 at Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental. In a couple of months, I had some implants put in. I had a couple of teeth that were pulled because I wasn't doing what you should do by taking care of my dental work long enough. And so eventually, Father Time, and just it comes, you have to pay the piper. So I had a couple of teeth pulled and implants put in, thanks to Dr. Scott Warren, did an incredible job. But all of that was because Dr. Steve Childress at Stonewood Dental finally convinced me, David, you got to do something now because it's only going to get worse. So he will be the one that puts crowns on me. He's also where I go to get my teeth cleaning, which I forgot about or just basically dodged for a long, long time. He's the one that's convinced me about, okay, even though you have some issues because you waited too long to get great dental work or even get to a dentist, we can make up for lost time, and that's who I go to at Stonewood Dental. Incredible staff, unbelievable customer service, and dentists that will take care of you, hygienists that will make sure you feel like you want to go back. It's Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
Welcome into Off the Radar, taking a look at some stories from around the world of sports that maybe just further elaborating like I'm going to do in this first story, or maybe things that we have not mentioned at all. And, good weeks will be when there's like a UFC pay-per-view going on and there's a bunch of seasons in play, but we're probably like the deadest of the dead, I would think, right now.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close to it. But I wanted to elaborate a bit further on that John Ruiz story, just because there's some quotes from him that I think are telling as far as how he viewed the NCAA. You asked how we viewed the NCAA. I said, basically they must, be doing some information digging and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But Ruiz did say, I'm extremely comfortable with what we are doing. I have nothing to hide. It went super well. The NCAA is trying to wrap their heads around this sudden change of environment. They're trying to figure out how the landscape is working. Ruiz has signed 115 athletes to deals at this point. But he went on to say that the visit to Miami was not so much an investigation, more of an inquiry to learn about NIL, saying, quote, a lot of NCAA bylaws are hard to reconcile with the ability and right to enter NIL deals. I think the NCAA is starting to get a handle on the fact that it's not capable of navigating within the NIL laws and their own bylaws. There is an internal conflict, which I know you mentioned. I felt the people from the NCAA were extremely pleasant. They are tasked with the job of making sure they gather enough info and create a functioning standard for everybody. There has to be better regulation. And a Miami person all followed up, like our peer institutions around the country, Miami communicates, blah, 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 per NCAA rules, integrity of the review. We cannot comment further. But it really sounds like a bunch, like for somebody who was hoping this was going to be like, they're going to go bust John Ruiz, it sounds like the friendliest investigation that's not really an investigation ever.
No, I got that feeling.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's simply what I'm trying to point out is this doesn't sound like they're going to get him. This sounds like they're actually using his brain to try and help themselves figure out what the hell's going on.
It's like Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, Leo goes and helps them because they don't know. I mean, like, that's the thing that NCAA needs to do is go to these people and ask them what they're doing and then try to, like you said, reconcile that with what the rules you're trying to make and go, okay, well, we can't make a rule that's going to regulate this, but this part of it we need to regulate.
You know what? We can say a lot of things about them, and it's easy prey. But maybe they are truly doing their due diligence and almost their own. They're trying to learn from those who have done it best.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean they're going to go crack down on anybody, but they. That seems to me that could have been a private meeting.
He
but
said,
it's not.
well, for all we know, he could have been the one to make it public. I mean, the guy's not scared of spotlight, clearly, but he said back in April that we feel our platform's the only one in the country that truly would be resilient to any attack by the NCAA. A majority of people don't understand the law. Their first reaction is, if it's not my team, it's no good. The reality is there is a quid pro quo. So even more reason to go and talk to him and see how bulletproof this is. And, so I'm kind of just viewing it after reading the article and all that of like, not so much make this about John Ruiz is in the sights of the NCAA, as like the NCAA is going to the enemy, so to speak, to try and learn how to defeat future enemies, basically.
Well, yeah, I can think of, there's a moment in the in one of the 2012 presidential debates that I think about all the time when I think about this, was Mitt Romney was asked a question about outsourcing, and I think that he answered it the right way. People have been like, oh, that's a really interesting thing. Mitt Romney was a guy who owned big multi-million-dollar companies that outsourced, and somebody asked him about how do you stop outsourcing, and he said, like, I have a plan to stop it. What he should have said is, listen, I can tell you why I did it personally as a business owner and what would make me stop it. That's what we need to know. Like, so again, just like this, like, okay, you want to stop outsourcing? Ask the people who outsource why they do it. You want to curtail NIL? Go to the NIL brokers and say, let's tell me what you do so that we can figure out what's good and bad inside this and what is actually policeable and what we'll never be able to stop.
Yes. Tell me what we can avoid wasting hundreds of hours of lawyer fees on the next time around, So anyways, just kind of, getting a little bit more into that. Now, as far as some things we haven't talked about at all, I don't remember this being mentioned and is made a little bit more official today, but what are y'all's thoughts about Jason Garrett getting up into the broadcast booth as a regular?
I've seen a couple of USFL games. He's not too bad. I mean, he does speak at a level, and knowing this from being around him a lot, covering him, he speaks to the level that when he really gets into football, it's kind of like Dave Aranda, where he can go right over your head.
Yeah,
because he's a brilliant dude. But he's not bad. I mean, I think at the desk probably is a little bit better for him than in the booth. But yeah,
I didn't think Romo was going to be good. He turned out to be what appears to be great. And so who knows what to get from Garrett. He's very cerebral. We know that. He's a Ivy League guy. He coached for a long time. He's been in the league. So, I mean, he knows the game. The question is, can he communicate it the way you need to hit? So I wish him the best. He's a good dude, man, even though I almost burned down his training camp.
Yeah, well, he did some stuff with the USFL, as you mentioned, but today, officially announced by NBC, he will be an analyst, Football Night in America, starting in September, which is their pregame show before Sunday Night Football. Rest of the cast, Maria Taylor, Tony Dungy, Chris Sims. So Jason Garrett, Chris Sims, Tony Dungy, and Maria Taylor, your pregame
great.
show.
Dungy's great. I love Dungy. I didn't know about him because he kind of seems to be low-key.
I enjoyed Chris Sims.
Yeah,
we had him on the show in Minneapolis, and he dropped an F-bomb. That was pretty funny. But
but this led to not only at Garrett's expense, but Sims' expense, and like pretty much everybody involved. Of just the thought of Jason Garrett being involved in the broadcast booth, just given how he was as a head coach, is just kind of funny to have pictured. But hey, he's like I said, did a little bit of the USFL stuff. And speaking of the USFL, so now he'll take a big step up. Yesterday, I guess it was a week ago, that the players had voted to unionize. And I'll ask you, like I ask you guys every week, have y'all paid much attention to USFL independent football happenings? Has it creeped up any more on your radar than it had the last month or so?
I just follow the news of it. I'm very curious to how it's going to do. I don't really watch the games all that much.
I did a little, kind of looked around because we had Larry Fedora on yesterday. I knew who was in the playoffs. Looked around a little bit at some of the teams, but other than that, if it's in front of me, I'll watch it for a second or two. Don't mean a second or two, but just kind of. But I haven't paid like deep attention. I couldn't tell you who the leading passers and rushers and all that might be. I just know the Stallions are 8-1. I know that New Orleans is in the playoffs. And then a couple other teams, of course, are part of it as well.
Yeah, I was just curious. They had a pretty viral moment with one of their players spitting his tooth out after taking a big hit.
I saw that video, yeah.
That was kind of wild. You don't see that every day. But, there was the union news about a week ago, and just kind of seeing the season steadily going along. I was just curious out there and would like to throw it out there to the audience because I bring it up sometimes, but have you been watching? I know that there's a lot of different people all over the country, and it's kind of weird when it's just based in one place, but they have announced they do plan on, playing in the host cities and whatnot. So I'm just kind of curious the pulse out there for the USFL and the regular season now kind of coming to a close. Elsewhere, had this note, Bruce Smith. Did you see this?
He is not happy.
And I agree with him.
Not happy.
So I have this issue that, maybe some of it's my age, but I see guys get named Hall of Famers now, and a lot of times I'm less scratching my head on some of them because I remember them as just pretty good players, but not necessarily Hall of Fame level players. Like when I think of Hall of Famers, I think of Bruce Smith, I think of those guys. I don't think of Tony Baselli right away. I think of a guy who got a lot of attention when he was drafted and was a very good player for a brand new franchise and all that. But Bruce Smith in particular is singling out the Hall of Fame selection of Tony Baselli.
Well, Baselli's been up for the Hall of Fame, Paul, for a long time.
Yeah, a long time, yeah.
I always thought of him as a great player, and then I always wondered about would he be a Hall of Famer like Terrell Davis because he didn't play very long. Terrell Davis eventually did because he won a couple of Super Bowls. But Baselli seems to have this fan base that's pushing to the point where they're pushing so much they may be pushing him away from some of the voters.
Well, I mean,
we need to ask John that at
pushed away from Bruce Smith, and I certainly had my questions as well because that's what it kind of comes down to in some cases is politics. And there's guys that get in where I'm like, But you're not a Hall of Fame like you were good, but there should be a difference. And I feel like we're really wading into like the pretty goods now Hall of Fame level.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with politics. But he said a large part of the campaign to promote Tony Baselli into the Hall of Fame seems to hyper-focus on a single successful performance he had against me in a 96 playoff game. On the one hand, I'm quite flattered to be considered the gold standard by which another player's game can be measured to determine his qualification to the Hall of Fame. But on a more serious level, I and other Hall of Famers believe it sets a horrible precedent to negatively zero in on a standing member of the Hall's play in order to validate the candidacy of a nominee. He said that basically underhanded tactics got Baselli into the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame's an exclusive fraternity that follows a tacit code of conduct which fosters respect and brotherhood between its members. Any Hall of Famers could use his credentials to boast about dominance over another member, but such behavior is deemed inappropriate because of the friction and discord it could create. And he talked about maintaining harmony and goodwill and all that, but he said resorting to underhand tactics like targeting a Hall of Famer and hyping a one-game matchup to bolster merit as a nominee, as some of Tony's supporters have done, undermines the integrity of the Hall's election process. It also invites otherwise unnecessary commentary and scrutiny around that candidate's worthiness of becoming a Hall of Fame member. So he went off a whole Instagram page basically saying that Baselli's Hall of Fame membership was part of a campaign that was basically squarely focused in many cases on a game against Bruce Smith. But they point out some of the other, guys that had got in. So it's just very interesting to see a Hall of Famer talking about cordiality and all that, blasting Tony Baselli.
Why is this just now coming out?
I don't know. I guess it's coming up, or somebody may have asked him about it. But Tony Baselli,
it's on Instagram.
Tony Baselli's a 3-time first-team All-Pro. I mean, that's pretty darn good. And there's
played 6 or 7 years though. He was good. He was one of the elite players.
I think one of the things that's helped Tony Baselli at least get through the maw a little bit more recently is that there's no Jaguars in there really. So like somebody's gonna say, well, what about? Yeah. I mean, they were actually good for a stretch. Like, who was the best player on those stretch? I mean, it was Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell and Mark Brunell and Tony Baselli and Fred Taylor. Who of those guys are Hall of Famers? I think Fred Taylor's
at some point might be in that conversation. Was it Leon Searcy who was the right tackle?
Yeah, I think so.
And he was even get to the point where he said Leon
he was
Searcy
talking
was
about
more
how
important because he was the blind side.
Yeah, he said Baselli didn't protect the blind side. Like he went off. So it's just very interesting to see a Hall of Famer of Bruce Smith's caliber talking at length the way that he did about Tony Baselli on Instagram.
I could see why he might have been a little bit maybe perturbed or a little bit annoyed, but I think he kind of went the opposite way and went even overboard himself in some things. Not that he was wrong, because what he said was all truth. There's no question.
And finally, we'll close it out with this. Deshaun Watson spoke. Deshaun Watson spoke today, and he was there with the big Browns backdrop as, everything starts to get underway with just the NFL season on the horizon and training camps and all of that jazz. So Deshaun Watson was speaking. He said that I do understand that I do have regrets as far as the impact that it's had on the community and people outside of just myself. So I'm having trouble reading this as well. This is exactly what he's trying to say here. But basically he said he has no regrets about any actions, but he does understand that he regrets the impact the allegations had on other people, was the basic gist of it. I do understand that I do have regrets as far as the impact it's had on the community and people outside of just myself, and that includes my family, that includes this organization, that includes my teammates in this locker room that have to answer these questions, that includes the fan base of the Cleveland Browns, that includes males, females, everyone across the world. That's one thing I do regret, is the impact that it's triggered on so many people. It's tough to have to deal with.
Yeah, Deshaun, I know that he has to talk, and people are going to keep asking him about it until there's some sort of resolution from the NFL. Then maybe those questions will go away, but they probably never will, because at best, Deshaun Watson is weird.
Yes, he is, man.
At best, he weird.
Really is.
That's the best case scenario, that he's weird.
Mm-hmm.
At worst, he's a predator.
Yeah. And this thing never ends. Every year there is 1 to 2 or 3 stories in the NFL that they just seem like they never end, and there'll be something else before. I mean, the Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, and all that as well, which is something we haven't even had a chance to talk about. But And probably for my case, it's probably good that we don't. But Del Rio did meet with the team. It apparently met with certain players. And that seems to be something now that's got a new level about the First Amendment. You read all that? It never ends.
Yeah, but Watson was asked about a bunch of other stuff. Not asked about a bunch of other stuff. He can only say so much about certain things, but he just kept talking about how he wanted to clear his name and be back in the community and win football games. And so you can imagine how those accusers and their representation feels about all of that. And certainly they were quick to fire off, hey, even just acknowledging like a little something would be the human thing to do, basically, but Deshaun Watson electing not to go that route, and obviously he's got to be careful too with what he says. But it's a weird story that just keeps on going, and so we'll see what happens ultimately. But those are a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. When we come back, Tim Brando, Fox Sports, John McClain later on. Paul's Top 5 in about 50 minutes or so, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They are the people that you can count on. I've got my car over at Richard Carr right now as it's getting some things taken care of, a couple of bumps, dents, I should say, that I had on my car after a little bit of a debris issue. A lot of construction going on around this area, and had some debris fly up and messed up, gave me a couple dents, and so I've had it over there for the past few days. But luckily, I'm not in the market to buy a car. If I was, Richard Carr would be the people that I would talk to. You can step up your ride at Richard Carr's summer savings event right now. Find summer savings like a 2018 GMC Sierra SLT, only $432 a month, or a 2017 Buick Encore for $183 a month, or a 2018 GMC Acadia for only $280 a month. Their vehicles go through a 72-point inspection, and they pay top dollar for your trade. 100% credit approval is always the goal, so you can find your car or truck today at Richard Carr. So those are some of the deals if you're looking to buy pre-owned. If you're looking to buy new, give them a call, go online, or see them in person and tell them you want to get on the inbound vehicle list. You get on that inbound vehicle list, it'll put you directly in line to be first come, first serve when it comes to the new vehicles that are arriving on the lot almost weekly at this point. A little bit of a supply chain issue still happening, but you can get into a vehicle quicker by getting onto that inbound vehicle list. But again, need a car today? Check out some of those deals I mentioned earlier. Either way, with over 23 years serving Waco and Central Texas, Richard Carr will continue offering award-winning service from their collision and service center, and they are the dealer you can count on for a great deal and superior service for the life of your car. So trust those good local people you can count on for 20-plus years. Richard Carr, proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Under 2 minutes to go in the opening quarter. Sanders pressure after the fake and throws another interception. Matt Jones picked it off.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He is always part of the greatness of what we do when we can, when we get Tim Brando, Fox Sports, on the show to talk about many things, and today quite a bit. But, Tim, we thought about you. We had the author, John Lucas, on the show who wrote the book about Beano Cook, and he said Tim Brando can probably say unbelievable better than anybody other than Beano. And it's been a while. We're glad to have you. You knew Beano about as well as anybody, correct?
Yeah, I did. And I mourn even today at the loss of Beans. And actually, fellas, I was on the air doing the old Tim Brando show from our studios that was televised at that time on CBS Sports Network, as well as on Sirius XM at mid-morning when I got word of Beano's passing. And he had just been on the show like a week earlier. And I knew he wasn't doing well, but I just wasn't ready. And that's the only time, I can tell you, it's the only time in my 5 decades on television that I ever lost it on the air. And I was in the middle of a segment, and I saw my guys, my producer Dave Druta, through the window, my guys in the box, as I used to call them, and I could see that something was really, really wrong. And then we went to a commercial break. They came in and told me, and I couldn't gather myself. I had a good, 2.5 to 3 minutes to regather to talk about it, and I just lost it. I just lost it, and it's the only time that ever happened. I love the man, and he was one of those guys that crossed through my life, that's path crossed through mine, quite by chance. When we started College Game Day in late 1986 and cranked up Game Day in the fall of '87 as the original Game Day cast with Lee Corso and Kerry Ross, who was our reporter, who is married to Dave Dombrowski, the baseball man, who's been a general manager for a number of teams, most recently I think the Tigers and the Washington team now, I believe. Carrie was from Oklahoma and a Sooner, and she was a big-time college football family girl from that part of the country, and we had a hell of a group, to start that thing, and it was a lot of fun. And Bino, without Bino, there would have been no game day, pure and simple. I mean, without him, there is no college game day. The vision that the then head of ESPN, Steve Bornstein, had for college game day was through Bino Cook. And I must tell you, my memories of those days with ESPN are tremendous. I've told many people there when asked about my time at ESPN. There's a whole generation that doesn't even know I worked there. I tell them that was the most exciting time of my career. We did a lot of great things for the very first time. We changed the paradigm of sports television viewing, I think, in the mid-'80s at that place. And game day was Bornstein's vision, but it was through Bino that he had that vision. Just as Bino worked through Roone Arledge at ABC in the 60s and 70s. It was the same sort of thing as cable television was taking off. I don't think that they being ESPN, have done a service that they should to John's book, because John was working with Bino there as sort of a personal assistant for him, but also with ESPN. And I wish they had done a little more promotion of this book, because it is once you pick it up and you start reading it, it's as though Bino is talking to you from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that, and the book is very complimentary of ESPN. It's not. I mean, he cuts to the chase. He tells the truth. Sometimes the truth can be a little ugly, but for the most part, I think it's a complimentary book where ESPN is concerned. And I don't know why they haven't, with all the resources they have, I don't know why they haven't promoted the book any more than they have.
Tim, when Smokey told me that we were going to have John on the show, my first thought was, my gosh, wouldn't the college football world love to hear from Bino just this last year? I mean, it would be unbelievable.
Yeah, because no one has his perspective. And Bino would always cut through the minutia of, in today's world, you guys may think I'm candid, and that's fine. You have me back from time to time to talk about issues. But regardless of what I say, there will always be, from today's fan base, there will be this presumed bias that they believe I have because of where I work. Now, I think you guys know different, and I believe the people that know me well know different. But in Bino's case, even though he was at ESPN at that time, Beans would be as critical of where he worked as he was of any other place that was covering college sports. He was an equal opportunity offender, and I think everyone understood that, and that's one of the reasons why I believe that the likes of guys like of him and people from his background, we won't see the likes of him ever again. Just like we never will see another Howard Cosell because of the different, place where he was in terms of his background before coming to television. Bino was far more likable than Howard, but he was no less glib. He was absolutely cutting right to the chase all the time and didn't care who he pissed off. And, from an old publicist and newspaper man, which is what he was when he began, combination of those two, and then going into TV, his programming acumen is what helped put college football on the map in the 60s and 70s when I was a baby, moving the Arkansas-Texas game, the game of the century, the first one really, in 68, that was him. He did that. Roone Arledge listened to Bino Cook because, not many guys in New York that were in sports television were that close to the college game. And the ace in the hole for Arledge and ABC Sports in those early days of television was Bino Cook.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with us, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. What are your thoughts about the Live PGA Tour, and obviously very quickly here you are all of a sudden at Brookline with the U.S. Open. Some guys have said quite a bit, and some haven't really helped themselves at all.
I think that the story would be much different were it not for Phil's mistake, made months ago, and with Shipnuck in his book. And I think that there's this really huge cloud over Phil in particular, and because of it, it gets to live golf too, in large measure, because all the attention is on Phil. And there's going to be an additional book that Mickelson, I'm aware of, knows about, and it's going to be even more tawdry than what's already out there. And this book is the Billy Walters book. If you've kept up with sports gambling, you know that Billy Walters is without question the most successful in maybe history. Musburger did an interview with him not long ago on his network on VSiN. If you have a chance to Google it, take a look at it. You can to know more who I'm talking about. He was put away in federal penitentiary for 3 years, and according to many sources, Mickelson could have very easily testified and gotten his sentence reduced. He chose not to. And now Walters is collaborating with Armin Katayan, the outstanding reporter and author from CBS and CBS News. I used to work with Armin. They're collaborating on a book, which according to a number of people, will make it look even worse for Phil. And that's another thing to keep an eye on. But as it relates to the PGA and what's at work here, and the Saudi money that's out there that is clearly limitless. I mean, the amounts of money that they have is a limitless, bottomless pit of cash. And for the younger players that have opted to take this money, by example, what was it? $1.8 million won by Rory at the Canadian Open.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, the winner in London, Schwartzel, banked over $5 million. Okay, in a 54-hole event with no cut and a lot less competition, about half the size of the tournament that was played in Canada was the size of this one. So, if you're offering younger players, guys like Bryson DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson, who I think is, in his 30s now, if you're offering these guys that kind of money just to show up, and that will free up so much more of their time to be with their children and whatnot. I get it. I do. Their legacies may be in jeopardy to some extent, because who's to say that World Golf will rank these guys if they're playing in tournaments of that size that are only 54 holes and only have somewhere between 35 to 45 participants? I don't know. That'll be something to watch. But the truth is, Mickelson's legacy is set. Anybody that's telling you that Phil Mickelson's legacy is in jeopardy, forget that. That Mickelson is, other than Tiger Woods, in the last 30 years, who's been bigger for the game of golf than Phil Mickelson? That said, if you watched his presser in London and you watched the one yesterday at Brookline, it was sad. It was sad. Mm-hmm. It was really sad, particularly for people that knew Phil when he was young, as I did, and respect Phil as I do. He looked like a guy that was not in command of his game. He has always been good, bad, or indifferent, whether you're a fan of Phil's or not. He always seemed like if there were issues there, he was Teflon. It didn't bother him. He could get through it. Yesterday, he was dismissive. He was defensive. He was all the things that he never was before. So he clearly is at odds with himself about the circumstances he finds himself in, whether it's LIV Golf that he's not proud of or himself that he's not proud of. I don't know. But I do know that he doesn't appear happy to me. All the money that they can, $200 million just to show up, will not buy you happiness, and he does not look happy. And his press conferences the last 2 weeks did not improve. It's unfortunate. I do think the game of golf is going to suffer because we're going to lose when you start talking about DeChambeau and you talk about Mickelson and you talk about DJ and so many others, I think Ricky Fowler's talking about it now. Patrick Reed's already gone. It'll be very rare, maybe at U.S. Opens and the Open Championship. Maybe the only time that we see the top 20 all together on the same course at the same time. And that's not good. That's not good for the game of golf. But I can't tell you that the PGA is not without fault or that they don't need to adjust. And I will tell you that I think the PGA would be in trouble if they go to court, because I don't know that they want to test antitrust laws in this country with regard to independent contractors that feel like they've earned the right to play on two different tours. So it's a very complex issue, without a doubt. And it has changed the sports economics in this country and specifically in golf. And I think the only thing we could compare it to is when they had that battle with Indy cars and Formula One and remember all that?
Yep.
What it did to auto racing? It's about the only thing I can compare it to, really.
Yeah, Tim, it would seem to make sense to me for the PGA to make some concessions and give back a little of that money, especially caddies and travel and things like that.
Right.
They can't match the Saudi money because nobody can. They're sitting on all that oil and everything else over there, but they could at least make it to where it's not as attractive for somebody to go and take the flack of, where is your money coming from? And that's the really only big conflict with Live Golf is, you're taking a lot of money, but who's giving it to you?
Yes, absolutely. And here's the other thing that's problematic for me. And again, I'm being critical of Phil. Phil disappointed me, but I also understand from a business point of view where he's coming from. But he's getting drilled, fellas. I mean, he is getting absolutely drilled in ways that heads of state are never questioned. Okay? I mentioned this on Twitter just a little bit earlier today. The sad irony of what we've witnessed. And by the way, all those questions, they were all tough and they were all deserved. Mickelson, in my opinion, had to navigate through just a number of bows and arrows coming his way from the media, but they were all fair. They were fair questions. Yet, where is the news media with regard to the President of the United States, who is willing to go to the Saudis as well as Iran to get more oil into this country? Think about that for a second.
Oh, yeah.
Has the President of the United States been grilled quite like a golfer on the Live Tour? I don't think so.
No, he hasn't, Tim.
Our actors and athletes get held to higher standards than our politicians, and that's just sad.
That's the sad irony. The sports media is more objective and a hell of a lot more assertive than the news media today.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, joins us. It has been a regular with us, and we're proud of that and appreciate that as well on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Tim, do you have any solidified thoughts on how you want to see the SEC schedule out over the next few years as they go through this pod discussion and everything else that comes with that?
I think it's absolutely the most incredulous conversation of the silly season of college football. I mean, really. So we're just going to this whole notion that they're allowing to float out there, well, we're just going to pick up our stuff and go have our own national championship. We may just play each other. And that's that. What? And as it relates to where you're going to go with the schedule, you're not going to go anywhere with the schedule until you get Texas and Oklahoma in. And I don't see that happening until 24 by the earliest, and more than likely 25. Okay? If they don't go to 9 games, then but why wouldn't they stay at 8 games? They've gotten away with it to this point, so why go to 9 anyway? Why go there if you don't have to? The conference has gotten away with whatever it's wanted. They've gotten away with through the entire college football playoff era, and they're going to do whatever they want to do. I just think it's a non-story in my mind. The Big 12, to me, we don't know who the commissioner is going to be. I wish they'd get on with that so that we can, with everything else that's going on, I think they need to go ahead, and if they know who their man is or their woman is, if it's Condi Rice, God bless them, go get somebody, okay? But the Big 12, in my mind, is the newsmaker right now, and yet all we're talking about is the SEC.
Yep.
What the Big 12 did in getting the teams that they've gotten to join BYU and cut that $18 million payout with Mike Oresco and the AAC to get those teams in by 23 is going to make the Big 12, I think, without question, in the future, the third highest paid conference for television rights. And even though Oklahoma and Texas will not be part of the next TV deal, financially, during the negotiations, they'll have those two teams. And with the extension of teams in what will be for at least a couple of years a 14-team conference, my God, the games are going to be through the roof good. So they're going to be negotiating for a television deal from a position of power, even though they're losing their two biggest guns, in Texas and Oklahoma. I think we talked about this before, fellas. BYU plus those teams from the American Conference, that's a hell of a replacement. No, it's not Oklahoma and Texas. Those are really good teams to be bringing in when you measure them against everyone not known as the Big Ten and the SEC. As for the Southeastern Conference, they don't really care about what Texas and OU does. Those are issues that those two schools have to navigate. And whether it's Oklahoma that doesn't want to pay the money any more than Texas, I don't think either one makes a move without the other. Even if Texas wants to get out more quickly, and frankly, if I'm Sarkisian, I'm going to my president and I'm going to Del Conte, the AD, and say, for God's sakes, let's put a good face on, but let's stay the hell away from the SEC until 2025. We got a lot of work to do, even with NIL.
Tim, how many College World Series have you broadcast?
I did 7 in my 9 years at ESPN between 1985 and 94. I was a dugout reporter in 85, which was so much fun. That was the Greg Elena 3-home run championship he knocked out Mississippi State, you might recall, with Palmero and Will Clark and Brantley and Bobby Thigpen and all those guys. Came back in 86, the Ben McDonald walk-off home run by Paul Carey of Stanford. I moved into the booth that year, worked with Jim Cott, Joe Morgan, Freddie Lynn, Larry Sorensen, Steve McCaddy, great partners that I had there. It was just a blast. And I will tell you, as much as I loved, and I said earlier, my most exciting period in many ways in my career was my earliest days at ESPN. The event that I still miss the most, that I'm not part of any longer, is the College World Series. And I think anybody that ever worked it would tell you that it's the most undervalued event, national championship event, most undervalued by the NCAA and by television in many respects. But it's also the most fun and the one you want to go back to the most often.
What do you think of the field this year?
Oh, it's magnificent. And for Tennessee not to be there, and yet they got 4 teams out of the SEC in, and 3 out of those 4 had to win on the road in the Supers. I mean, my God, that was incredible. I thought last weekend, I don't know about you guys, as much as the golf was being discussed, both the LIV Golf as well as the Canadian Open, and you got the NBA Finals going on. It was college baseball that had my attention.
Yep.
I mean, it really was. From what Notre Dame was pulling off to that incredible Magnolia State rivalry, which was bigger than anything they've ever had in the state of Mississippi, with Ole Miss, Big Brother having to go play, the directional school down in Hattiesburg. That was a bit. Those tickets were going for major bucks there. I mean, major bucks. Then Arkansas pulling off what they did against North Carolina, and then A&M. Really, the only one at home that had a draw that you said, okay, they should be in pretty good shape, and they took care of business. But it's just going to be a hell of a lot of fun. The thing that really gives college baseball, I think, difficulty, though, is these Supers are all played at home fields, and most of them are bandboxes. In the old days, when we were playing at Rosenblatt with the wind blowing out towards left field in every game, you were going to have, a lot of excitement offensively. A lot of 10-8, 12-11. Back in those days, Oklahoma State was really good. Gary Ward had great teams with P.M. Cavilla. They were in that 85 when I was telling you about. Robin Ventura was on a team later. I think it was like the 87, 88 team with Monty Ferris. I remember those teams really, really well. But you had a lot of offense in those games. And now with TD Ameritrade in downtown Omaha, it's a big-time feeling. It's a wonderful ballpark. It's been great for the city and commerce in Omaha, Nebraska. But the stadium is not a hitter's ballpark the way Rosenblatt was. And the game changes now. A lot of these home runs that we're watching over the weekend in these bandboxes like in Knoxville, Tennessee, those are simple can of corn pop-ups into shallow left, at this ballpark. And so you're going to see a lot more 2-1, 3-2 pitchers duels, not the gorilla ball that maybe we've seen up until this point.
Tim, I know you've got things to do. We got to move on as well. What is the best golf course you've ever played?
Man, that's a tough one. The two that everybody says, oh, you have played the Masters. I did. I was supposed to play the Monday after the Masters, and it rained. That was after the one Bubba won, the one that he won in a playoff. So I didn't get to play it, but I will play it before long. I've not played Pebble, even though I've been to Pebble. I wasn't playing golf when I was there. It was in the 80s. I'd have to say Oak Tree. It would either be Oak Tree in Edmond, Oklahoma, or Pinehurst, number 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those would be my two favorites that I've played of all of them. Marion in Philadelphia, by the way, is outstanding. I love playing that one. In inner city Philly, that's a great spot. But an Olympic Club is incredible too. I played it. But I'd have to say Pinehurst, number 2. Donald Ross, and with the update that was done by Pete Dye, it's got to be probably number 1. I'd put Oak Tree number 2.
Hey man, we appreciate you as always, Tim. Thanks for your time. Appreciate the insight on many things.
You got it, fellas.
Thank
Anytime. You know that.
Yes,
we'll
sir.
Soon.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with us almost once a month, sometimes even a couple of times a month. Great to have him on at any time, also during college football season.
I was just thinking about the first time I ever met him was when the first college football playoff was in Dallas. Our friend Ivan sets up Audio Avenue there and said, come on up and do interviews. And we were kind of spread thin where I was the only person who could go up there. And I think they only gave us one credential for the game, which was kind of nonsensical. And so I went up there to do the show, and I think I set Craig and Q up with some interviews, and one of the ones I got was Tim Brent, Charles Haley. That was the day we found out that Charles Haley did interviews all of a sudden, and he was all better and doing great. But Tim Brent came up, and I asked him. I said, "What's working for Sirius like?" Because I'd been working for terrestrial radio my entire career at that point, and he's like, "Oh, it's amazing. They give us this great studio, and they're kind of out of my hair, and they care about their subscriptions, and that's about it, and you can do what you want." And I thought, man, that's the dream, and here we are, kind of living it now. So, even though we're not on Sirius, we're on our own platform. But even then, I thought about that conversation I had with Tim, and I was like, from that time on, I was like, man, I'm driving home, going, God, I wish that
from the that's from the 3-2-1.
There's no going back, brother.
Yeah, I know.
I played Pinehurst number 2 last year, maybe the hardest course I've ever played. And greens there are, without a doubt, top 10 most difficult in the country. They're the ones that are rounded. It's like hitting the ball onto a contact lens. I have a cousin who's married. Her husband, Jim, who I think is a part of an insurance company, has been forever, ever. They live right near Pinehurst, but I've never been invited. But that's okay. All right, when we
just show up.
Yeah, no, I just call. Hey, I'm on my way. When we come back, Paul Catalina's. We got a little time here.
We got one more.
We take a break here, though. Another break to come. We'll come back and chew on a couple of things, and then also Paul's top 5 around the corner. Oh, John McClain is next.
Oh, yes, John McClain. Yeah,
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. City of Woodway, and man, they've got something great going on right now. They have Taste of Southern Roots, a craft beer tasting and concert on July the 7th. There will be live music, David Ramirez and Brett Welch, as well as beer tasting with Southern Roots Brewing Company with over 8 different craft beers to sample. We're going to give away a set of 4 tickets to that event. And we can do that, in fact, if you're interested, on the chat room or text line. First person to contact me, this is in Waco. It's on July the 7th, a craft beer tasting and concert. I'll give away 4 tickets. First person based on the timeline on the chat room, or if on the text line at 254-339-1122. If you could come. Again, a lot of you are out of the state, even out of the, in some cases, out of the country. But if you can make it, if you're interested, I want to give away a set of 4. It's the City of Woodway on July the 7th. Taste of Southern Roots, craft beer tasting and concert. DiscoverWoodway.com.
Alan Samuels is having the Make the Switch sales event in June on the award-winning new 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. In June, the special value is up to $7,000 or get $4,000 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. Ram trucks are designed to be durable, functional, and stylish. This legendary truck gives you that first-class feel. Alan Samuels in Waco, the place to shop for Ram trucks. First responders get $500 extra cash.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The secret to living your best life is pizza, obviously. Golden crust made from scratch, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and the toppings, crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, bacon. That's called a dream team. Find everything you need to live your best life and more at Marco's Pizza. Owner Bob Mock has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
All right, here we go. The last half hour of this show, joined by Hall of Fame columnist and writer John McClain, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. John, How nervous were you when you threw out, or leading up to throwing out the first pitch last week?
I was nervous. And one of the reasons I was nervous because the first time I went to an Astros game was their first season in 1962. My mom and dad took my brother and I down to Old Colt Stadium, which is now part of the parking lot in NRG. And I watched the first pitch being thrown out when I was 9 years old. And I didn't understand it, but I thought it'd be pretty cool. And I asked my dad, can I throw out the first pitch? And he laughed and said, no. And so I always wondered. And so every year I've been to Astros games beginning in 1962. And I've always been fascinated, like how some of them, why they pick a person. But when they asked me about a month ago, I started getting real nervous because I have a torn rotator cuff in my right shoulder and I can't throw from a normal angle. So I started working out with my friend Lester Zed, another friend, my wife Carol. She would get out with me and she stretched my arm on Sunday morning. She stretched my arm in the parking lot, and Shereen Williams and her husband Tom had come down to go to the game, and we went out behind home plate about an hour and a half before, and a lot of my friends in the media and with the Astros came by, and I was, are you nervous? Are you nervous? And I told the truth. Yes, I'm nervous because I didn't want to bounce the ball in front of home plate. And my plan was to try to throw it over the catcher's head. They didn't have 6'5" Jason Castro catching me. He had relief pitcher Seth Martinez. And so I walked out to the dirt, and I pitched too quick. I should have taken a minute, and I did it. And the Astros broadcaster Robert Ford called it an eephus pitch, and but it hit the dirt. And from my angle, I thought it hit the dirt like in front of the batter's box, but it turned out, as I was seeing so many friends tweeting from different angles, it actually hit the dirt in the batter's box. And I wanted to tell Seth Martinez, if you were a real catcher, you would have reached over there and caught it. But of course I didn't. And I was glad when it was over because my knees were knocking and my stomach, I had butterflies, but it was an extraordinary experience. And I wanted to thank the Astros for giving me that opportunity, because thinking about it since 1962 and then that dream actually coming true, I told everybody I was the opener for Justin Verlander, and Verlander and I did not allow an earned run, and I helped him get his 8th win, most in Major League Baseball, and break the Astros 3.5 game losing streak. They should have called me last night to go to Arlington and relief the Christian Javier because their bullpen was awful.
Yeah, John, you were no Baba Booey. You were no 50 Cent.
Yeah.
I mean, you were way better than all those guys. So very proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Yeah. By the way, John, I just saw this stat that the Astros catchers combined have the worst OPS since the 1907 Boston Americans. That's the only bad thing that's really going on for them right now, right?
They can't hit. Martin Maldonado has been on a tear, and he's up to like 123. Jason Castro has been an embarrassment at the plate. When the trading deadline comes, they need to find a catcher who can hit 200, which they've been able to do in the past, but they're almost automatic outs, especially Castro. And they have a catcher at their AAA team here, the Space Cowboys, Corey Lee, but they're not ready to bring him up because of handling pitchers. But right now, the Astros are lucky they're in this division. Mm-hmm. Even though the Rangers are better than we all thought they'd be, the Mariners have been a huge disappointment. So have the Angels. And the Astros have Alex Bregman hitting like 220. Yuli Gurriel led the American League last year. He's hitting like 220. Only Yordan Alvarez and rookie Jeremy Pena are hitting, and they just sent Pena back from Arlington to Houston because he has an injury they want the doctors to check out, and that will be a huge blow if he's out a while.
John, Craig had a note during Off the Radar earlier, about an hour ago, about the Bruce Smith venom towards Tony Baselli and some sort of a pep squad that was trying to set him up. He's in the Hall of Fame now, Baselli. Have you read any of that?
Yeah, I read it, and what he claimed was never brought up in our meeting. He claimed that a big part of Baselli getting in the Hall of Fame was having a good game against Smith, and Smith listed all these tackles that were better than Baselli. And what he said, and I think I'm going to tweet this tomorrow, everything he said was in our meeting. Nothing was ever said in our meeting. I checked with some of the other voters, so I don't know where he got his information. It was bogus. And Tony Baselli, for about a 5-year period, was as good as any left tackle ever played. And I don't know what in the world, what kind of burr Bruce Smith got under his saddle. But you talk about classless, it is classless.
Yeah, and he went on, and not only that, John, but he talked about, the cordial nature of being a Hall of Fame member and all that, and I'm sitting there thinking, but the whole time you're blasting a fellow Hall of Fame member, so it was very odd, and I'm curious to know kind of what set that off.
Well, Baselli, he was a very classy guy, and I thought Bruce Smith was. He's taking a high road, of course, but you know what he'd like to say,
sure,
but he's not, because he has waited for years to get in, and when we started putting in players with short careers like Terrell Davis, who was finally in because he was as good a playoff running back as there's ever been. Gale Sayers, Doak Walker, Dwight Stevenson. There's a lot of guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who had short careers. The key is, when they had that career, where did they rank in the pantheon of players at that position? And Tony Baselli, because I've talked to so many people about him that played against him, said he was as good as there was during that period in which he was healthy.
John, Deshaun Watson, keeps having to do press availabilities, which I'm sure the Browns and he wish he didn't have to, because it doesn't seem it's not going to make it any better for him. Does anybody have any idea what the NFL is going to do, or what do you think the NFL should do about Deshaun Watson and this ever-growing number of accusers?
Nobody has a clue. Most people I know now think he'll be done for the season. And Tony Busby represents the plaintiffs, hinted today that more lawsuits would be coming. He's told us for over a year that he has vetted a lot of women who claimed they were assaulted by Watson during massage sessions, but he didn't think they had credibility. New York Times said it was 66 over a 17-month period, and he was asked about that today, and he kind of dodged it, because in his initial news conference when he was traded there, he was said, why did you need more than 40? And he said, well, it was over a 5-year period. It was not that many. Well, we knew it wasn't over a 5-year period. So I think the Browns, they didn't care what happened. They never talked to any of the plaintiffs. They were only caring about what will happen. And I'm guaranteed at the time of the trade, they're thinking, okay, 4, 6, maybe a max of 8 games, but now every day it's just more and more the same. And as someone who has read every lawsuit multiple times, every woman tells a similar story. And there's a segment out there that thinks that they're making it up, that they've been coached by Tony Busby, they're out to get easy money from Watson. But when more and more keep telling a similar story, it's hard to believe that, as he claims, he didn't do anything to anybody, and every one of them is making it up.
John, thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, as always.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em.
That's John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, writer, Hall of Fame voter, and also a Hall of Fame of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame as well. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Marcos.com. There are 5 locations now in Waco. There's over 1,000 stores around the country. Fastest growing pizza company in America. And Bob Mock is an owner of 5 of them in Waco, including Hewitt, Woodway, Robinson, Bellmead, and China Spring. There were just 3 about 4 or 5 months ago. He's added 2 new ones in Robinson and also off Hewitt. Delicious pizza. Unlimited large 2-topping pizzas. Go online right now. Order $8.99 each. You can use the code HOT2GO. Also, the Pepperoni Magnifico, $9.99 for a large. Use the code PEPMAG as well. $3 off large specialty pizzas. Order now. The code is special 3. Unlimited medium 1-topping pizzas, $7.99 each. And you can order that now online or call your local or closest Marcos Pizza. Go online. It is Marcos.com. And on top of that, they also have much more. Pizza bowls. They have sandwiches, wings, drinks, what you need, they have them. They can even do gift cards for somebody if you want to get something for them as a gift. It's Bob Mock and 5 locations of Marcos in Waco, Texas, and 1,000 stores around the country. Go to marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
All right, yesterday I did top 5, absolutely have to be's on the College Football Hall of Fame ballot. Today I just wanted 5 other people should consider.
Well, then it's not a top 5. It's a top 10.
Well, there's more than 10 people on your ballot, correct?
Yeah, how many did I say yesterday? I
think there's
mentioned
12. Yeah, so there we go. I'm going to do a top 2 tomorrow, and we can shut up about it. So, but these are 5 other I would like to see the voters consider.
Okay, but hold on. Who did you do yesterday? Warwick Dunn.
Yesterday was Tebow, Reggie Bush, Warwick Dunn, Ray Lewis, and Michael Bishop.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so today these are 5 other names to people for people to consider. Number 5, Eric Rhett, running back from Florida. He was kind of the player, I think, that put the Spurrier teams, or one of them, that put the Spurrier teams on the map. 4,000 yards rushing. He was the first college running back to rush for 4,000 yards and have over 140 receptions. Really a fantastic player in those Gator teams. And kind of forgotten because, again, his NFL career was kind of nondescript. You know, he played, but it wasn't there. But somebody that people should consider because, again, this is not about your NFL career. It's about your college career, and people should remember
and that's always been my biggest complaint about the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame. When we discuss people, don't even, again, if they had a great college career, should have no impact at all. Same thing with this. The College Football Hall of Fame should not mean whatever you did in the NFL, even if you played it down in the NFL. And many of the great players did not.
Yeah, I always thought he had a cool name. That's actually what I first remembered about him. And, he was with the Buccaneers. I didn't watch him much at Florida. I don't know if it was I probably did, and I just don't recall it. I remember him as more of an NFL guy than I do as a Florida guy. So I'd have to go look back at, his career. I just don't remember it very well.
He's all SEC.
That's all good. I just don't remember his particular career at Florida all of that well. So I'd have to be somebody before voting that goes back. But I did love him as an NFL guy. I mean, obviously his ode to the frat whenever he'd score with the hooks that he would do was cool. Yeah, exactly. I was a fan of his. I just don't remember enough about watching him specifically at Florida to be able to say yes or no, I'd vote him in.
Yeah, you know what? One of the other things I didn't bring up to you guys yesterday, to be a part of the ballot, you had to be you had to be an All-American. So there's some
that
guys,
makes sense.
that was something that you wonder, okay, why not? You had to be an All-American. Now think about that. If you're playing quarterback, you're up against it, right? So there's probably some guys that you could otherwise say, but there's some selection process. I'll go over that in a second. But okay, Eric Rhett. Right.
Yeah, number 4, Jeremy Macklin. This is a name. Mizzou. Just 2 years, but an all-purpose yardage machine. Receiving, kick, and punt returns. And he ran the ball. Jeremy Macklin was an electric player, and a guy I think that may not get in this time around or maybe the next one, but somebody they've got to consider because he was an all-purpose yardage machine. Whenever he got the ball, he got yards. I think he had like 4 or 5 kick return touchdowns in his career. So
yeah, he was absolutely a weapon, a multi-weapon. I always wondered. I remember him, and he was fantastic. But I wonder if they utilized him much as like the jet sweep type stuff. I don't remember whether they did that or not.
Yeah, he
was everything. Yeah. I mean, he's put the ball in his hands. That's what he was.
Possible.
I remember he was an Oklahoma commit at one point in time and then flipped to Mizzou. I don't remember if it was late or not, but you just imagine like they were flying high back then. But it goes to show you how relevant Mizzou was at the time. Mm-hmm. It's been a little while since they were that relevant, but yeah, he was nasty. We just didn't get to see him for very long, like you said. But no, he was fantastic. I don't know if I think a college football Hall of Famer with him, just because. I put that in very elite territory, so he probably is. But to me, like I'd have to think about it a little bit.
And that's why I kind of pulled some of these names out because you do have to think about it, and that's to consider. But I mean,
great player though.
And when I was looking at the ballot, like I listened, you know what? Let me look at Jeremy Macklin, and really, I mean, his 2 years plus he was, part of that being
5
everything
returns for touchdowns.
Yeah, 5 returns. Yeah,
22 receiving touchdowns. He was twice a consensus All-American in his 2 years.
He's very good.
That's very impressive.
Yeah. Number 3, and the only one on the defensive side of the ball, on this top 5, Antonio Langham, who was just a bad dude in the secondary at Alabama. Really their best defensive back. And I believe he and George Teague overlapped there. 92 national championship. Antonio Langham was a really fantastic college player. And when I think of those Alabama teams that Gene Stallings had, Antonio Langham's one of the names I think of. I mean, absolutely. And he was... I know he was All-American a couple times. 4 years he was All-Conference. He started for 4 years and played for 4 years. So, yeah, I think Antonio Langham, I was kind of surprised when the name popped up that he wasn't in yet. Just because he's one of the guys who played and you knew 3-4 years of stats out there for him.
I'm going to send you my ballot next year. Because I don't know if they would have been a part of like the next 5, but boy, the Macklin thing, I probably just an overshadowed.
Well, I mean, there's so many names on the ballot.
That's the thing is college football. Like, there's a billion guys that you have to sort through. I'm still trying to figure out, how did Jeremy Macklin go pro after 2 years? Was he just old enough?
It was a red shirt.
There was a red. Okay,
shirt,
that makes sense.
Or maybe like an injury his freshman year. But yeah, so
he was actually a red shirt because he was at Missouri 6, 7, and 8. He was freshman of the year in the Big 12 in 7, twice consensus All-American in 7 and 8, so he redshirted his freshman year.
I don't remember.
Remember when you could redshirt guys like that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, it's just like you don't even think about that now. But yes, on Langham, I think you made a great case for him.
Yeah. Number 2, a name who is on the '85 Bears. People remember him, and the Raiders.
And Willie.
But Willie Galt. That's my fault. It's copy and paste.
Okay.
We got to do that. Yeah. But Willie Galt, who is at Tennessee, the only player to ever have 3 kickoff return touchdowns in a season, was Olympic caliber sprinter, just another in an era where total yards was not really as much of a thing because they ran the ball a lot more at Tennessee in the SEC then, but
they always had great receivers.
They always had Willie Galt was one of the best kick returners of all time.
He was on the 85 Bears.
I think you've got to absolutely think about Willie Galt too.
Yeah, Willie Galt was, some of these sprinters sometimes, like that kid Allen, who's now picked by Philadelphia, that won the 200 meters or whatever it was, or hurdles. Man, he. For the
Olympic
3-2-1, a gold star for Paul remembering Willie Galt. You sometimes let Ronaldo Nehemiah and others that have been sprinters, but sometimes weren't quite great football players, but Willie Galt was a hell of a football player.
Yeah. And number 1, and this guy I know is on your ballot, Smokey, but people need to know it. He's not just the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys. He's the all-time winningest quarterback in the history of college football. Nobody's won more games than Kellen Moore has, and that has to mean something. There are 3 guys on this list that kind of fall into the category of, were they the best player on their really great teams? No, but they were the quarterbacks, and they were pretty good. He's on the ballot. Ken Dorsey is on the ballot, and Josh Heupel's on the ballot, and all 3 of these guys are very high-level coaches now, one regard to the other. Ken Dorsey and Kellen Moore will probably be NFL coaches next year, and Josh Heupel, as we know, head coach at Tennessee, and a guy who's on the rise.
led him to the national title.
Yeah. So all 3 of those guys have a case to get in. Now, you could make the argument, and I don't know about Kellen Moore and Boise State because I don't know those teams as much, but they had a lot of NFL players. But Ken Dorsey and Josh Heupel were maybe the worst players on their team. I'm not trying to knock them, or the least athletic players on their team, and still were great players in college.
And Heupel came out of a junior college and just lit it up in 2000.
Kellen Moore was 50-3 over 4 years. So, he it didn't really matter who was around him. He obviously had a little something to him. You go, that record as a quarterback, it's incredibly impressive, 50-3. But I mean, just numbers wise and impact wise, he's certainly a very worthy candidate. I wouldn't think of him probably in the top 100 players of, if you made me sit down with a blank sheet of paper and go, who do you think's missing from the? It'd be a long time before I thought of Kellen Moore, but then you mentioned him, and it's like, obviously. I mean, look at the numbers. Yep.
2 things that do come out, and this is a part of the process because there's other, but has to be a first-team All-American by a selector organization that's recognized by the NCAA and utilized to comprise the consensus All-American teams. And a player becomes eligible for consideration 10 years after his final year of intercollegiate football. There's a couple of other things as well for being nominated or at least on the ballot. All right, Paul, thank you. Great stuff in the top 5. Craig Smoak, thank you. Garrett Ross, as always, behind the scenes. Jack McKenzie, always working on something to make us better. And Emery makes us look great with what he does and puts things up on the various feeds for what we do. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, ADs from Cincinnati, UCF, Rice will be a part of our show as we bring it to you. Thanks to those of you in the text line chat room and our great sponsors. Good night. David Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.